All right, well, one of us is here anyway. Sorry we're late, everyone. Rhett is having technical difficulties with his camera on the other end of things, so we're just going to get this show started, and hopefully Rhett will show up before too long. Anyway, welcome to Talking Heads, everyone. Episode 176, your once-weekly live show for the latest in beer and tech news. I'm Jeff. Welcome to the show, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on this Wednesday night, or in podcast form over on Anchor.fm, or wherever your favorite podcasts are found. If you've never seen the show before, we talk beer, we talk tech, we talk games, pop culture, entertainment, usually some Star Trek. This is a family-friendly show in both language and content. We do drink alcohol on the show, and if you are drinking along with us, alcoholic or not, let us know in the early show going, and we will give some shout-outs as we go along. All super chats are read on the air so long as they meet those family-friendly criteria, and if you'd like to join the super secret chat and the even more super secret after party, think about joining the Patreon or Float Plane. Links are both down in the video description. As a bonus, you'll get exclusive access to the Discord server, where you can chat with myself, John, Rhett, Steve, all of the hosts from Talking Heads, and take part in the awesome community over there. I wanted to say always growing and awesome at the same time. It's a little bit of both, but more than anything, awesome. Oh, welcome to the show, everyone. Draco says, I so want that LCARS layout. Man, this thing took me hours upon hours upon hours to put together. In fact, the main screen that's right here, now, sorry, the other side's going to be a little wonky for right now. All of the text in here is editable, so I can make it say whatever I want at any point in time. It's a lot of fun. Looks like Rhett is trying to join again. Rhett, are you there? Rhett? No, he's just an orange screen still, and no audio. Oh, it's thinking about it. It's thinking about it. Anyway, this should be a good show, hopefully. Rhett, if you can hear me, you might want to jump back to your other webcam, or if you can get it working in Discord, we can connect over Discord, and we'll make that work. So, So we'll get this figured out one way or the other. Anyway, should be a good show for you tonight, so long as, Ram, what are you doing? Rambo. Come here, Rammy Cat. Rambo is trying to eat some plastic, it sounds like. Please don't do that, Ram. I like you. Should be a good show. We've got Intel debuting a prototype flagship potential GPU with what appears to be a quasi-chiplet design. Hey, I've got someone in my ear now.
Oh, yeah, you do.
Oh, yeah. Are we back?
I think so, baby.
Yeah! We got it. Welcome to the show, Rhett.
Thank you.
It's about time you showed up.
Yeah.
To hold this thing down on my own.
Technical difficulties, folks.
You missed the intro. It was a good one. So, but
Yeah,
that's about all we've done. So
sounds about right.
All right. You know, when I announced that we were going to do Mixology March and drink nothing but cocktails on the show during the month of March, I didn't realize that, number one, March 1st was International Irish Whiskey Day. And so we had Irish whiskeys on March 1st. We also had St. Patrick's Day last week, which is a great holiday to have cocktails on. Today is International Cocktail Day, and there happens to be exactly 5 Wednesdays in March. So it ended up being the longest month and literally the best possible time to have it. All of that was completely unintentional, as much as I would like to take credit for it. So, let's get the cocktail show rolling. Rhett, what are you having for a cocktail tonight?
Okay, so I went on a limb, went a little experimental with this one.
Okay.
It's essentially a tequila and Tabasco drink cocktail. Tequila Tabasco cocktail, I think, was the name of the recipe.
Yeah.
So it's Well, I made it a double, but essentially for one, it's 2 ounces of silver tequila. It's 3/4 ounce ginger syrup, 3/4 ounce lime juice, Tabasco to taste, crack some pepper over it, a little bit of sea salt, and you're supposed to garnish with cilantro.
Ah,
But I didn't want to go to the grocery store, so I got tamalives,
uh-huh.
and they're really good. I just kerplunked a few in there because I like them,
Yeah.
and I'm going to eat them by the time this is down. So it's really good. I really like Tabasco, and so at first, when I was making it a single, I put too much Tabasco,
So it became a double.
so it became a double, so I could kind of have a redo at the Tabasco. The second mix that I added was just a dash of Tabasco on top of my,
Yeah.
shake weight Tabasco, basically. But it's really good, surprisingly. It's very peppery, obviously, and
Yeah.
you probably can't see it, but I got some cracked peppercorn on top. It's really good. And yeah, got a little bit of heat to it, and we'll see how it fares as I get down to the bottom of it.
Nice. I do like me a good spicy and peppery cocktail. It's one of my big draws over to rye is you usually get that peppercorn kind of back into a really good rye whiskey, and but yeah, add ginger to it and some cracked pepper on top. Ooh. Now the tequila has me raising my eyebrow because I'm not a huge tequila fan.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't like agave. Agave spirits are wonderful when you get into mezcal and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
straight up tequila from Tequila, Mexico,
Well, and what I tell everybody, because I do like the shot that this is kind of inspired from, which is just tequila and Tabasco, and you shoot it. I used to really enjoy that, but I'm too old to shoot now, so no, I'm just kidding. But I wanted something inspired that way. And what I tell everybody about the Tabasco and the tequila is that the Tabasco, if you like it, it covers up the parts of tequila that most people don't like to taste.
Yeah. Sorry, Ram is sitting on your tower, and I thought that was hilarious.
It is cute. But yeah, anybody interested in trying it, if you're not sure about tequila, but you like Tabasco, try and a couple, add Tabasco to taste. Personally, I don't think you can do too much, but a lot of people, they add 1 dash of Tabasco to 1 ounce of tequila, and that's just not enough if you don't like to taste the tequila. So keep that in mind. It covers up the bad parts and replaces it with the good parts of the Tabasco sauce.
Nice. And I see Shellback dropped by for just a moment. How's it going, Shellback? Great to see you. Great to see you. I know it's a little late for you. It's 11 p.m. So, but good to see you, and good to see everyone else in there as well.
And also the ginger syrup was quite a find because apparently it's not very common. So
yeah.
Unfortunately, the only one that I could get that was plain ginger syrup is actually a little bit of a cheaper brand. So I'd be interested to try something that was a little bit more high quality.
Yeah.
They did have a ginger lemon syrup, but I didn't want the lemon in my drink. So I wasn't, and it was pretty expensive. I think for something else, I would have tried it, but I decided to go just to test the waters on this. And the ginger syrup is really good.
Nice. Yeah, I don't think the lemon would have fared well in that drink. There are some spirits in particular. You can go lemon and lime. There are other spirits, and tequila is one of them. You need to pick a lane. And you either add lemon to the drink or you add lime to the drink. They do not clash together. So, yeah, I think you made a great choice there. Anyway, I have 2 cocktails on the slate for tonight. One of them I am experimenting a little bit with. In fact, I have never even used the thing that I am going to be using to make it. And that will be the second drink. But for the first drink, I'm going to make a traditional Tiki Generation Mai Tai. And this is a drink that, when I say Mai Tai, let's just start with you, Rhett. What do you think of when I say Mai Tai?
Rum.
Sweet. Okay. Sweet.
Tropical.
What goes umbrella in it? What goes in it?
I don't know. Cherries? Put cherries in Mai Tais?
Typically, if you go to most restaurants, and especially if you go to Hawaii, when someone orders a Mai Tai, what they're expecting is what I call a sunset Mai Tai, which is white rum, a lot of orange juice, a lot of pineapple juice, some grenadine, and whatnot. And so you get that nice yellow to deep red cascade because you just pour it in and let the grenadine sit at the bottom, which is where you get the sunset effect. But most people think Mai Tai, they think pineapple and rum or orange juice and rum or something like that. And when you go to most restaurants, that's what they give you, is a lot of sugar and a lot of juice and a lot of rum. A traditional Mai Tai is actually made with lime, rum, and orgeat. Orgeat is an almond syrup. And I made this is 5-minute almond syrup. So I made this tonight because I forgot that I didn't have any on hand. But yeah, managed to make almond syrup very quickly. But this has 3 different types of rum in it. And a little bit of, you can do a triple sec, so a dry orange, or you can use a drier orange liqueur. And so I'm going to use Gran Gala orange liqueur. But let me go ahead and grab some ice really quick, and I will be right back.
Okay. How's everybody in chat doing? Welcome to my show now. I'm glad to be here, leading the charge. Hey, let's see what we got going for people drinking stuff here. I don't know how far back I should go. I don't know what Jeff hit. So I'll just scroll up. Not seeing any drinks. I picked a great spot, didn't I? Hey, Snuffleumpagus. I have a lovely cold water because I'm limited to 1 alcoholic beverage a week, which I choose to have on the weekend. Hey, cheers to you, Snuffleumpagus. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, days where I know I'm going to have, especially days where I'm leading into Talking Heads, I drink a lot of extra water. I don't drink this much on a typical weeknight.
No, I usually I try to be completely dry on Wednesdays until the show, unless I'm filming something. Like occasionally I'll have a beer with lunch, but not on Wednesdays. On Wednesdays I'm a strict no go because I usually have 2 to 3 drinks on Wednesday nights. Anyway, so we're gonna start off with 1.5 ounces of Sailor Jerry's spiced rum, which is a 92 proof and a fantastic mid-range amber spiced aged rum. So 1.5 ounces of that. And this is going into a shaker full of ice, about 3/4 full of ice. We're going to go equal parts with a Bacardi White. I'm not a huge fan of Bacardi White, but it's one of those drinks that you don't want to just, you're not going to pour this into a snifter and just sip it straight. But this is what white rum is technically supposed to taste like in a mixed drink. So it's a fantastic mixer, and it's not that expensive. So 1.5 ounces of that. Whatever you do, don't go with the Captain Morgan White because that is awful. It's an awful mixed drink spirit. Let's see. We're going to do 3/4 ounce of our Gran Gala. So that is our orange liqueur. If you're using an orange liqueur, you want it to be fairly dry, or like I said, you can use triple sec. So we're going to do 3/4 ounce of this. There we go. And for those keeping track, no, we're not done with the booze yet. We're then going to do 3/4 ounce of orgeat, which again is the almond syrup right here. And then we're going to squeeze a 1/2 lime into it. So I'm going to cut a lime in half, and then I'm also going to cut a wheel out of the lime. There we go. This was not a very good lime. I think I'm going to have to... Oh, shit.
Oh, no. Well,
I will be back in a couple of minutes.
So Steve's over here, and he's in chat. He's telling me I got to get better hot sauce. Okay, first of all, I have better hot sauce. But Tabasco is vinegary. It's less saucy, so it mixes with the drink better. So, yeah, I love hot sauce. Tabasco is great though. It's very utilitarian. So, so I do use. Oh, the chat flooding with sadness for you, Jeff. So sorry. Yeah, but Tabasco is pretty utilitarian. So I use it a lot for breakfast. I use it a lot in drinks. You want to make Hot Pockets good? You do it with a little bit of Tabasco, baby. Yeah, you could go some other sort of hot sauce. Steve, I think local, you get your butt over to Roth's, you get yourself some secret aardvark sauce. That's kind of one of my big go-tos. A lot of Salem restaurants serve it. It's just a locally made. I think it's from Portland. It's a pretty good habanero sauce that I dig. But it's thick. It's a sauce. You know, it's not going to mix into a cocktail. So what are you going to do? By the way, just talking about this because I can't get into the news without Jeff, obviously. But this is a pretty good drink. But I noticed y'all heard me talk about the Tabasco before. I accidentally put too much in, and it never rose from the bottom. And so now that I'm getting down there, I'm getting a lot of Tabasco. But it's kind of nice. Like the ginger syrup obviously adds a little bit of sweetness to it. But, you know, those of you guys that like ginger, you know, you get a little bit of a bite in there too. It's not too bad, but it is a spiciness. So add that with cracked peppercorn, and man, we're just rocking and rolling. Andrew Preston says, Hot Pockets? Nah, Sriracha is better. To each his own. I got all the sauces. Sriracha is great, but I put Sriracha on noodles. I use Sriracha a lot to make like Thai, peanut butter sauce. Mix that in there, cook down some peanut butter. Freaking delicious. But yeah, Hot Pockets, I guess I typically buy the breakfast Hot Pockets. So maybe that's why I'm putting Tabasco rather. Although, you know, tobacco is a great part of breakfast for many Americans and people around the world and Europeans, you know. When I was in Barcelona, a lot of morning smokers on the street. A lot. They were everywhere. In fact, I saw more people smoking in Europe than in the United States. So kudos to the US's, healthcare, mission, operation to diminish smoking. We failed at everything else health related, but not smoking. We save it for when we're drunk, like normal people. Anyway, you guys want to talk about Morrowind now? Been consuming a lot of Morrowind. Don't ask why. Just have been. It's Elder Scrolls 3 came out in 2002, so game's 19 years old at this point. But damn, it is so good. Let's just talk for a minute about, I think, how for granted we take the Elder Scrolls games. Not that they're, I think that there are obviously other great games out there, but people laud this open world aspect in gaming. And one thing I never thought about until recently is just how really open world all of the Elder Scrolls are. Well, I mean, even Daggerfall too, but I'm thinking, Skyrim is just insane. Oblivion, the same. Morrowind. Think about this. There's really not a single building that you can't enter. Which is like something that like Grand Theft Auto doesn't do. It's something that I don't think like The Witcher 3 does. I don't think you can go into every single building in The Witcher 3. But not only that, like how many items in each building and each dungeon in the open world are interactable. I mean, once you get to Oblivion, I mean, you can pick up apples and plates and chuck them across the room. You can pick up you can pick up people's bodies and drag them around. And so I got to admit something live on the air that, obviously I prefer Morrowind over the next two.
Of course, that's what we're talking about.
Just because I think their commitment to immersion and their commitment to world building and lore and writing in general is so much better. But man, like the attention to detail in these other games is just so astounding. Even in Morrowind, though, but each game is this highly detailed, curated, handcrafted world. Each item is placed by somebody for the most part.
This time I'm squeezing a little bit easier lime.
He's got his lime juice back. We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
What?
Are you talking?
I'm talking. Can you not hear me?
I can't hear you. Is it just me? Can anybody else hear him?
OBS says it can hear me.
I mean, I can hear you whispering.
That's weird. Hello?
I can hear you say hello, but it sounds like you're... I don't know. Oh, everybody else can hear you. Well, this sucks.
Okay. Lovely. Check the volume on your side then.
Is this my fault? Hang on.
I'm going to go with your fault.
Oh, shit. You're right. Damn it. I turned you down so I could talk about Morrowind without getting interrupted, clearly.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, I said I'm back a couple of times, and you're just, like, carrying on about Morrowind, and I'm like, well, he's in a zone, apparently.
Yeah, sorry, man. Sorry. So I've got this, y'all can tell I'm wearing this Razer headset, right? And it's a great headset, and I recommend it. I think I got the Kraken, like, tournament edition or something. My only complaint, well, two complaints, as you're about to hear. The mic, not my favorite mic. It's pretty quiet compared to my Plantronics. But it has this, I can't move it because if y'all remember my binder clips from my old build, they now are used to hold my head cord cables in place. But it's got this like dongle, I guess is the word, and it has volume control on it. It has a mute button on it, and it has a button to toggle like THX spatial whatever sound bull crap. But it also has this, which just rubs on your shirt.
Oh yeah,
and turns things down. And then I never know which way to go, just like instinctually, because it's a double-sided switch.
Oh, that's lame.
It's stupid. It is so dumb. So it rubbed on my shirt when I was waxing about Morrowind. Anyway.
I was going to say something completely inappropriate, but that's okay. I'll tell you after the show. Anyway, I'm going to go grab some more ice.
Oh, okay. Wow, he interrupted my Morrowind talk. People are talking about mods, by the way, and the mod community in Morrowind is alive and well. And for those of you all who use Reddit, you can go to the Morrowind subreddit, r/Morrowind, and also r/TES mods, or TES3 mods, perhaps. Anyway, the modding is alive and well. Tamriel Rebuilt is just a complete overhaul mod that's really good. I also use Morrowind Rebirth. God, I've talked about this on the show so many times I can't remember if it's Rebirth or Reborn. Another really good one. Use the unofficial Morrowind code patch to fix some of the issues.
All right. So, for those keeping track of where we were, I've got 1.5 ounces of white rum, 1.5 ounces of spiced rum, 3/4 ounce of a triple sec or dry orange liqueur. I've got 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice and 3/4 of an ounce of orgeat. And then this being a citrus drink, you're going to shake it quite a bit. And I know everyone's hoping this will just explode over the top of me right now.
It will.
One of these days.
Murphy's Law, baby.
I've never had one of these explode on me. I had one come close, actually, when I was doing the Amaretto Sour a couple of weeks ago on the show. Not on a live show, but on a recording, where I had it burst on me. But I caught it. All right. So, the next step in this is to pour it over some nice crushed ice. Now, I didn't bother crushing my ice this time. It's just store-bought round ice. I went a little bit lame on my ice game. Oh. Okay, well, go on back upstairs, okay? Go tell Mama. Okay, thank you. You can close my door. Thank you. Good night, little bit. All right. And one final step is we are going to float. You can do a couple of different things here. I like going with a float of a blackstrap rum, either like a Kraken or Captain Morgan Black is a good one, or you can go with a Myers Original Dark. You can also float a 151 on top if you want a little bit more bite. But this drink is boozy enough already that I prefer just a little bit of a dark rum float. There we go. And that is a proper Mai Tai. So it's not the most attractive drink in the world, but it is a fantastic, fantastic rum drink. It's not nearly sweet or nearly as sweet as you'll get if you go to a tourist trap bar or chain restaurant or something like that, because when people hear Mai Tai, again, they want orange juice and pineapple juice and rum, and they want it sweet and they want it potent. This is potent and nothing else.
It's interesting that my take of Mai Tais has always been like grenadine and cherries.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I guess like pineapple makes sense, but I never think orange juice. I must like, well, first of all, I never really order Mai Tais anywhere, but
yeah. Once you have one of these, you won't order Mai Tais anywhere either.
Well, hey, I'm waiting for this thing to end so we can do these shows in person and I can get my personal cocktail
totally
mixologist back.
Totally. I don't want to be in like my personality. I don't like being uppity. I don't want to be uppity. I don't want to be stuck up or pretentious or anything like that. But I have a really hard time going to chain restaurants or a variety of other places and looking at their cocktail menu and finding something that intrigues me. Because I've got a 45 bottle bar here. I'm not understocked and I know how to use it all. But it's really hard. And when you order a drink and then they give you a really crappy version of it, you're like, I know better than this. Come on, guys. Yeah. But I don't want to be that jerk, because if they're at a chain restaurant, the bartender doesn't have freedom. They're given the recipe list by corporate headquarters or, they're all-seeing overlord and whatnot. So it's like, I'm not going to be a dick because this guy made an old-fashioned the way his menu says to make an old-fashioned. But this is one of the worst old-fashions I've ever had.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking specifically to like P.F. Chang's right now. Like, higher-end restaurant, their old-fashioned was garbage. They do get some good drinks in there from time to time.
It depends on, I'm sure, who the bartender is and things like that.
Yeah.
Because there's some restaurants that aren't chain restaurants, like here in Salem that I go to, where you go on a good night and you get great cocktails all night.
Yeah.
But if you go during the week or maybe in the afternoon, like, same guy's not going to be there.
Yeah.
Or gal. And they're just not going to make them the same, with the same attention to detail or whatever it might be.
Yep.
Yeah, I was in the Keys in Belize, and they got this like renowned bar on this like party island, right? It's called the Lazy Lizard, and and it's like the only place on the whole island that you can like really like play in the water, like right by the shore, because otherwise the water's like a foot or two deep for like a mile, like everywhere around the island.
Yeah.
And we were like so excited because everyone is like talking about like their cheap cocktails and stuff. And so like we get to the island, we've been walking a ton and finally get to the island. It's where we end our trip, and we go, it's $1 cocktail night in Belize, so it's actually like 50-cent cocktail night by American standards or whatever.
Yeah.
And they serve them in these like plastic cups. It's like the cheapest syrup you can find for every single, like, you want a pina colada. Okay. Here's some rum, but it's also just like, the cheapest pineapple flavored sugar water that you can add to. Yeah. But they're 50 cents a pop.
Right. It's kind of hard to complain when they're 50 cents.
You can eat.
God, what was it Applebee's was doing $1 margaritas for a while, and they had another one that they came out with for $1, and I'm like, there's no way you're gonna make anything resembling that drink for $1. I think it might have been a mojito, and it's like my mojito requires at least $2 in rum.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, you know, I know we're getting into the 36-minute mark here, but that's kind of the thing.
Sorry, someone was late. Has nothing to do with me spilling my drink at all.
I know. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry it took me so long to figure out to restart my computer. Should have been the first thing I did, but I was like, why is Zoom constantly just launching and relaunching over and over and over? But that's kind of the thing about modern cocktails is that like the advent of like all these like pre-mixes and things like that, like they're so like bad for you in a way, but they like taste sweet and good, and so people equate them with like being good. But it's like the reality is like one of my favorite cocktails is a whiskey sour, as I'm sure everybody's heard me say 1,000 times, but like a fake whiskey sour obviously is what got me into it, but also it's so bad once you've had a handmade whiskey sour with like handmade like lemon and lime and all this sort of stuff. Like,
and that was kind of my point where again, I try not to be pretentious. By the way, I see the couple of super chats. I will get to them momentarily. I try very hard not to be pretentious, but when I go to a bar and the bar is supposed to be a cocktail bar and they advertise having craft cocktails, and the ingredients I see behind the bar are the neon red maraschino cherries and Rose's grenadine and Mr. T's sour mix and crap like that. It's like, that is not a cocktail.
Right.
Nowhere in a whiskey sour does it say grab sour mix. It says grab lemon and grab simple syrup and freaking make a sour mix.
That's I guess like that's kind of the difference between like a cocktail and a mixed drink, I guess, right? Like
technically they should be the same thing.
People use it synonymously, but like I've also seen a cocktail technically has 3 ingredients. That a mixed drink could have 2. Because
that's the cocktail community getting pretentious.
Well, I think the 3 ingredients is liquor, a mix, and a garnish.
Right.
So like that's where a cocktail starts.
Right, but that originates from the whiskey cocktail. And they said it was whiskey and whiskey, ice, sugar, and garnished with something, with some kind of fruit. I mean that was it. And they would water down the whiskey, but because you added water and ice sometimes and sugar and a garnish, it was a whiskey cocktail, and that's where the phrase comes from.
Hey, I'm all good. I'm all for tearing down the gatekeeping. I'm just telling you what Google said.
And what's funny is I'm defending. I'm trying not to gatekeep when I like go to bars and whatnot, but at the same time I so gatekeep when I go to bars.
Well, the reality is, I think if somebody wants to tie one on, there's nothing wrong with grabbing a Mr. T's sweet and sour mix. Right? Like, that's fine.
And if that's your jam, that's totally your jam. But if I go to a bar that's supposed to be a cocktail bar,
right? Yeah.
And I order a whiskey sour, you better not just be shooting in some cocktail mix. I don't care if you have pre-squeezed lemon juice and simple syrup and like you have the ingredients all dashed out. That's how I make stuff here sometimes. Is I will, if I feel like grinding my own lemons and storing a couple ounces of lemon juice at a time, I totally do that. I make my own syrups. I make my own grenadine. I make my own turbinado and demerara sugar simple syrups. I'm going to make a ginger syrup because I was actually thinking about it 2 weeks ago, and then you said, hey, this drink needs ginger syrup. And I was like, wish I could help you, but I haven't made it yet. I make my own orgeat. This time it was cheating. It was just from almond milk that you buy in the store, and 50-50 sugar, and it works great. Other times I've actually gone through and ground almonds down or soaked almonds for like an hour in boiling water and then blended them and milked them. Like, I've made my own orgeat before from scratch. And I have a problem paying $12 for a cocktail if all they're doing is pouring Mr. T's in a glass for you.
Right. And I was going to say, I guess that's really the root of the problem is it depends on what you're paying for, what's advertised, all that sort of stuff.
Right.
But it just all depends. I love, we used to have like a really good like tapas restaurant here in Salem. And man, they handmade their whiskey sours. But you know what else I love that they made? That people Duke on all the time. I don't even know the real name for it, but it's like red wine and Coke. Like that was like a great thing to have when you're eating like appetizers and stuff. Like maybe somebody in chat could say, but yeah, it's like and honestly, I kind of think like the cheaper the red wine, the better. You know, like and the Coke makes it
totally,
better.
totally. Anyway, let's go ahead and get to these super chats real quick. Redbeard the Pilot chimed in right before I spilled my drink with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you so much, Redbeard. Built my first 10 gigabit network following your vids. Thanks. How goes the long-term stability on the Chenbro FreeNAS backup box? It's literally been running for about as long as you've seen the video, only about little over a week now. And so far, it's running great. Now, I've been running another Chenbro NR12000 running TrueNAS for my home lab. That lab doesn't stay on 100% of the time. I feel like I'm clipping slightly. That lab doesn't stay on 100% of the time, but that server itself has been very solid just with 6 2 terabyte SATA drives in it. And that's been running great. So that box running so great for the last 2 or 3 months is kind of what convinced me to go buy another NR12000 to run as a backup server, because I didn't want to spend a crap ton of money on another 2U or even 4U, disk plane or disk shelf or something like that. I just needed drives to slide into my rack and be able to run. And that server more than handles that load. So, been very happy with that. There was another super chat from Jeremy, $5. Thank you, Jeremy. Drink well, brother. I will say this is one of the better Mai Tais I've had in a while. And there might have been some rum left in the bottom of the mixer that I didn't pour out. So,
I drank my cocktail almost. I'm down to the bottom. You can see my tamales in there. Also, look at my sweet holiday glass here.
I like that. Yeah,
I know.
I showed them off on this.
Yeah, right. It's so cute. And you got to gold rim there.
Yep. So Big Spoon wants to know, what is in grenadine? Technically, grenadine is a pomegranate syrup. You can make it very easily with if you just want to get some 100% pomegranate juice, and again mix it 50-50 with sugar. There are some who add oranges or some spices to it.
When you say mix it 50-50 with sugar.
By weight. 50-50 by weight. And so
like not like a cup for cup? Or...
Not cup for cup. It's gram for gram.
Oh.
That's where some people get messed up with some things. Now, you can also do a heavy syrup. You can sometimes I'll make a 2-to-1 sugar to water simple syrup, and all you end up with is a more condensed sugar, less dilution. So if you have some drinks that are after that, some drinks do call for a heavy simple syrup, and so you would do 2 or 2.5 to 1 sugar to water. Most syrups that you see are going to be 50-50 by gram sugar to liquid.
Okay, and so let me expose my ignorance here further. So like obviously like some cooking is involved, or you just like mixing that?
You're not just mixing it. I actually talked about this on the last video, that sugar does not like to dissolve in cold liquids. Now, most liquids that you get are 80% water. Pomegranate juice, even, squeezed out of pomegranates, is 80% water and 20% whatever the pomegranate put into it. But even still, cold and even room temperature doesn't like to dissolve. Usually I recommend getting a controllable cooktop. Something that you can set at like 150 or 160. I usually don't go beyond that when I'm making syrups, although some people will tell you to get boiling water. I don't see the advantage, and once the sugar starts to boil, it actually can get warmer than 212, and that crap is like napalm when it starts boiling and bubbling out of the pot at you. So it's actually quite easy to get superheated syrup boiling on your stove and have that start splashing, and all of a sudden you've got instant 2nd degree burns because a couple of drops hit you on the top of your hand. So
we're talking like a similar process like making like jam.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah, you get it up to about 150, 160 degrees, so not boiling, but you got a little steam going on, and that's where sugar really will just turn to mush and dissolve straight into the liquid. Like I said, this orgeat tonight, I took 1 cup of almond milk just straight out of the fridge, put it in the bottom of I have a really small pot for doing this kind of stuff in small batches like this. But I put 1 cup of it into a pot. I turned on the burner on medium for about 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes. As soon as it hit 150, I turned it down to low, poured in a little over a cup of turbinado sugar. I use turbinado for this mix. And just mixed it until it dissolved, let it heat a couple of more minutes, and then took it off heat. It was literally, I think, about 7 minutes from turning on the burner to walking downstairs with a little bottle of orgeat. So you could do it in under 10 minutes if you're doing like a full, 500 ml bottle or something like that. So yeah.
Nice. Okay. By the way, so I was telling everybody the Tabasco is settling at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Tabasco settled in the middle, so y'all saw me making some faces. The bottom is the ginger syrup.
Ooh.
Damn. That's sweet.
Ooh.
And good. Delicious. I love ginger.
That drink, I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying that drink sounds like it should probably be shaken because there are some ingredients that aren't going to blend just by stirring.
Yeah. You're 100% correct. Yeah, the recipe does call for it to be shaken and strained.
Yeah.
So I did not do that because
you just built it in the glass. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a cocktail shaker, so I should have specified that off the get go.
Well, now I know what to get you for Christmas.
Christmas is a long ways away.
Well, when's your birthday? I'll get you one for
Christmas.
Your birthday. Damn it, Rhett, work with me here. Happy Easter, buddy. Here's a Boston shaker.
Look, we got a lot of holidays between here and there. We got Easter.
We can make this
Memorial
work.
Day.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
You know what? When we're all vaxxed up at Memorial Day and you come over to my house for a barbecue, I will have a cocktail shaker for you there.
Memorial Day is when my pool gets filled too, baby.
Oh, there you go. Well, I think we just moved locations.
I think we were talking with John in the Discord about doing a Talking Heads from the pool or something like that.
Poolside Talking Heads, yeah.
It's on the table.
I have a camera 3-axis head that could track you in the inner tube in the pool.
Yeah.
So you put a camera facing you, and then you have the studio camera looking at you on a motorized 2-axis head. And it can track your face, and as your face moves, it'll move the camera to keep you in frame.
Oh yes.
I've actually not used that feature yet, but I have it.
It's happening. We're making it happen.
Yeah. So you can be in the inner tube the whole time, and it won't care.
Sipping a Mai Tai.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully a proper one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
All
right.
Did we get through all the super chats?
Yes, we did. There were just a couple there. So yeah, we are through the super chats. I think 45 minutes into the show, we can finally get to something else. Now that I've had
it's National Cocktail Day. We had to talk this long about cocktails.
That was right. And I hope you all enjoyed this. I certainly did. The viewership says we were holding steady, so I think we're good. But yeah, this was a show that was meant to go off the rails from the very beginning, it seems. But I've got some dry pants on now. Literally not a drop hit my desk. It all landed right in my crotch.
I miss the old Talking Heads desk that was just like covered in stuff.
Oh yeah. That desk irritated me to no end. So I got an unfinished desktop from IKEA and put it onto a set of custom legs and bolted it to my countertop desks. And it was fantastic. It was a great tabletop. It looked beautiful. It was unfinished birch. And I knew I should have oiled and sealed the top before I did anything on it. But I'm like, what am I ever going to get on it other than a couple cup rings? And that just adds character to it, right? And so I wasn't really that concerned. The very first God video that I did was putting back together my Dishonored case mod, and I spilled blue dye straight onto the tabletop. And so right in the center of my tabletop was this splotch of blue dye that is still there.
That's how I knew where to put my drink.
Oh, it was so irritating. So it's like, well, I guess we either live with it or...
I liked it, but the upgrade's nice too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this new Surface is another IKEA countertop, and it's on the most stable set of legs that I have ever bought. God, I could stand on this desk all day long. I could jump up and down on it. Like, it has like a 700-pound capacity or something like that. It's crazy, but I love this desk. I actually didn't end up moving the sit stand desk to my main talking heads desk because I found it when I started mounting things to it, like my monitor and my camera and whatnot. It wobbled just a little bit too much. At its lowest point, it was fairly stable, but any kind of lift to it, and that thing just became a lever, especially when the camera sits a good 2.5 feet above the desktop. It was just doing this the whole time. It's like, it's not going to work. So, there is a desk that IKEA makes, though, that has these same legs, but it's a motorized set. And so it's like a 700-pound lift capacity on a motorized desk that you can put your own top onto. And so I'm planning on getting one of those, but it's not $199 for that. It's like $599. So it's a little bit more of an investment. One more super chat. Novella Hub, $5. Share with us your ice making secrets. My ice making secrets is I am a damn dirty cheater.
You buy distilled water.
No, well, it's not quite that cheating. Although I have done distilled water for ice before, but
is that cheating though? Look, he got up to go away. I'll tell you my secret. I run the tap into my silicone molds. Put them in the fridge. I also have cocktail glasses that have
ID
water
Prom
inside.
bought one of these, and he swears by it as well. This is my clear ice cube maker. And this was way more expensive than it has any right to be. This was $40 to make 4 cubes. It takes a little over a day to freeze these 4 cubes. But it's just silicone and plastic. Like, there's nothing complex about this design. Basically, it uses the top-down freezing method. And so the top 2 inches are the ice cube that you keep. But since it's called directional freezing, where if you can slow down the freezing process and have it freeze from only one direction, it will freeze much, much slower. And what happens is water freezes before impure water freezes. And so you'll get nothing but clear water and clear ice freezing on the top, and it pushes all the sediments down as it's freezing. And so what you're left with is this 95% clear ice 2-inch cube. And then underneath that is all of the sediment and air bubbles and everything else that are left that didn't freeze.
Pushes the impurities downwards.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it pushes the impurities downwards because water itself will freeze at a lower temperature. If you're cooling from all sides at once, what it does is it pushes those impurities towards the center. If you can directionally freeze it from one direction, it pushes it all along one axis, and it pushes it to the bottom, and all those impurities are below the ice cube mold itself. Now, when you take this out of here, what you end up with is 4 2x2 cubes, and then there's also some 1x2x2 cubes underneath that have all the impurities. You can save those for using in a shaker or a mixer. And so you do end up with a little bit more usable stuff here than just the 4 cubes. But so this is just a silicone sleeve to insulate the sides and the bottom.
Let me ask you this. Do you think when a cocktail calls for on the rocks that like a single cocktail ice cube suffices?
It depends. It depends.
Do you like it over ice?
So the Mai Tai is a boozy drink, and you're actually supposed to serve this one over crushed ice, which I didn't bother bringing down.
Faster, right?
Yeah, so it melts faster. It gets you more dilution, and so it's more surface area, so it gets colder faster. It doesn't stay cold as long because it's melting the ice quicker,
right?
And you're getting more water dilution versus a drink like an old fashioned or a Manhattan over a rock or something like that. That is supposed to be a large single rock. And the other benefit of clear ice is that it melts slower because it actually takes more energy to convert it back into a liquid.
When you do a shaken cocktail, can you still put it over ice, or are you supposed to not do that?
It depends on the cocktail.
Because I was just thinking with my Tabasco cocktail here that because I ended up using a single, whiskey rock essentially, and I think that it would have been better had it been, ice cubes or crushed ice or whatever.
I'm gonna put this back in the fridge.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, obviously the recipe called for it to be shaken. The recipe called for it to be shaken, but I felt like it could use, ice. You get that experience of the ice tumbling into your face a little bit as you're drinking it and all that. So,
that drink to me needs ice like this, where it's a lot of smaller pieces. Not necessarily crushed ice, but smaller, like half or 3/4 inch cubes. You get a lot of surface area, and you get a little bit more dilution, because what did you say? It had 2.5 ounces of tequila. Like it's a little bit bold. Plus with the lime and the ginger in there, you're gonna want a little bit more dilution. So it all depends on what flavors you want to continue bringing through, how cold you want the drink to stay, etc. The reason they call even for stirred drinks is they'll say stir in a mixing vessel and then pour over a single large rock. The single large rock is still going to conduct is still going to keep the drink cold, but it's not going to dilute or melt as fast. And so it's a great drink, or it's a great option for an old fashioned, because you're doing all the dilution in your mixing vessel and then pouring it into something just to keep the drink cold.
And it also is kind of I think a happy medium between like a whiskey neat versus on the rocks, because it'll chill it, it'll take some of the bite off, and it'll add a little bit of water to it, but it's not as fast as doing it on the rocks, which has just become a half and half whiskey water, real quick. That because it's National Cocktail Day, let me ask you one more question. Where do you rest on the idea of, I use them all the time, but the like chilling stones?
Oh, totally.
For like a neat drink, I guess, but like chilled? Yeah, no,
totally. So temperature will drastically change the way you or which flavors you can pick out. And that goes for neat spirits, that goes for cocktails, that goes for everything else. Your tongue will detect certain things at certain temperatures, or will filter flavors more predominantly. How's that? And so as a drink warms up, like if I'm drinking an old fashioned, as it warms up a little bit, I'll get a little bit more of that peppercorn, whereas when it's super cold, I might get a little bit more sour apple and caramel. And that's just part and parcel to your tongue interpreting flavor at different temperatures. So again, it depends on the cocktail, it depends on the spirit. Some spirits are better warmer, some spirits are better colder. But the advantage of a whiskey stone or whiskey stones in a glass is that they're not going to add water to that. So if you're trying to avoid dilution, you just want to change temperature, they're a great option.
Right. Nikola Runev disagrees. Thinks stones are a bad idea.
Dude, just drink it straight. Nicola, you've been quite vocal the last couple of weeks as we've been going through cocktails. I have a feeling you wouldn't get along well with the Magnificent Bastards, because you seem a little bit pretentious at times.
Well, that's the thing about drinking it like neat, is like people say it like as though it puts hair on your chest, and okay, sure, but if you're drinking a cocktail, you're drinking a cocktail. Like, I drink whiskey neat all the time. I drink cheap whiskey neat all the time. I got a freaking half gallon of 7 Crown in my bar that I'll drink out of a coffee mug on a Saturday night when I have nothing better to do.
Seagram 7's great neat. That's the one nice thing about it. It's a cheap whiskey that I can still actually enjoy.
Right. Exactly. But, see, and thank you. Scott agrees.
With the stones, it is straight. It's just colder. Right. Exactly.
It just changes the temperature. And I think that it changes the temperature in a way that's better than just like putting your whiskey in the freezer or something, which I would never, I don't want to do, depending on. I like room temperature whiskey, first of all. Yeah. But if I do want it a little chilled, I think the stones go a long ways without watering it down. And technically, I've always heard all the old cowboys say that you're supposed to drink whiskey with a splash of water. And nobody mocks those guys for splashing a tablespoon of water into their cheap whiskey or whatever. Like, right. I don't. It just depends, man. It's all whatever you want to do.
Dragon Rider says, add enough Pepsi to cover the ice and enjoy. Again, I'm not pretentious for any kind of drink. Like I enjoy a great rum and Coke from time to time. I'll do a whiskey and Coke sometimes. I've done, Mountain Dew came out with the original Mountain Dew that was made for moonshine. I had that with some corn whiskey and whatnot. Like, it was a pretty good drink. I will say for me, it kind of depends on your whiskey there. Like, don't go too expensive. Don't go drowning, Jameson 18 in a bottle of Coca-Cola. No. Like, please don't.
Yeah. If you want to taste a nice whiskey,
right.
I honestly, that's the thing. Like, so for example, like one of my favorite scotches is Lagavulin 18, and it's a little expensive. And, I've drank it neat a few times, but honestly, if you add like a half tablespoon or maybe even a full tablespoon of room temperature water to it as well, it really takes the burn off while like allowing you to enjoy the smoky richness of it, because that's like that's one that's like pure smoke,
right?
It's delicious, But again, it's like you add water to it and people are like, what are you doing? You're ruining expensive scotch. It's like, well, okay, but also this is the way the Scots drink it, so what are you going to do? And don't quote me on that. I don't know how the Scots drink it. but anyway, look, it's 9:02 p.m. and we have stories to get to.
We do.
So,
Big Spoon, $5. Don't be the last guy to hit the thumbs up button, or even worse, the guy that doesn't hit it at all. 149 watching and 55 likes. What the crap is that? Well said, weird. Spoon.
I got 156 watching, 58 likes.
159 now.
Yeah.
And 58 likes.
So maybe he must have just wrote it when it was down.
Right.
Yeah,
it was
naturally.
We've been floating between 150 and 160 tonight, so right in that range. But no, well stated. If you're watching this, go hit a like, go subscribe. If you're not, do it. And then Awesome Physics says, yeah, like cool drinking, like sexy drinking, not this psycho trailer park, which is one of my favorite quotes.
I love that.
All right. Tech news. Tech news happens exactly 60 minutes in. It's a nice round number today.
It helps because we don't have that many stories. So,
Yeah. Oh, we're up to 72 likes now. That actually worked. Thank you. Keep them coming. We don't have a lot of stories, so it was just happenstance that we happened to talk about cocktails for half of it.
All right. Let's hear it.
Officially.
Intel.
Tech news. Here we go. Intel has kind of showcased an early prototype of what their GPU prowess may be capable of. Now, this is a die that they did actually produce. Whether or not it lives up to the bins they're saying it's going to or not is up for interpretation. However, it is 7 nanometers, so we got to give Intel credit for something there. Sorry. Intel today showed off the 7 nanometer Ponte Vecchio. I believe I'm pronouncing that wrong, but whatever.
Ponte Vecchio.
Ponte Vecchio. Thank you. Ponte Vecchio. I tried to add a little bit too much to it, is what happens.
Yeah, it's Italian.
Ponte Vecchio. Their new Xe GPU die, which has over 100 billion transistors and 47 XPU Compute Tiles. Now, there's a similar technology on the market right now, not necessarily with GPUs, but with CPUs, and they're called chiplets. So I think it's really funny that Intel, of all companies, is gorilla gluing a whole bunch of single dies onto a larger die with an I/O chip on it, and now they're XPU Compute Tiles. They're not chiplets anymore. I think that's cute. There's not a lot of meat or substance in this, but basically they're saying they have 47 magic tiles with 100 billion transistors, and essentially their most complicated and advanced fabrication method yet. But they're going kind of the AMD route where you're paring down the number of SKUs you have to produce, the number of unlike SKUs. We've talked about this on the show before. AMD at this point makes two parts for their CPUs. They make an IO die and they make a CPU chiplet. And depending on how good that chiplet is depending on which CPU it goes into. So if it's a fully validated 8-core that does 4.9 gigahertz, that goes in a 5950X. If it's an okay 8-core, it goes in a 38 or 3900X. Or sorry, no, that one's 2 6s. Sorry. If it's a decent 8-core, it goes in the 5800X. If it's a decent 6-core, it goes in the 5600X. And then there's also validation for what can go into an EPYC CPU, which, by the way, their server and their consumer CPUs use the exact same chiplets and exact same IO dies. So there's some variance there. But that's really it. There's nothing more complicated than that. It's 6 cores, 8 cores, 12 cores, or 16 cores, and any combination therein. Same thing with Threadripper. You can go up to 32 and 64, and EPYC can go up to 32 and 64, but they make two parts. And it's just depending on how good that individual part is, which CPU they're going to glue it on and call it what model. So Intel taking a little page out of AMD's book here, probably for the best. Now, the thing to mention about this particular GPU is it also has HBM2 on board. So they are integrating all of the HBM, all of those chiplets onto a single, very, very large die. Like, this is a die the size of a Threadripper, and it's a GPU. Like, just wrap your head around that for a minute. Like, we think of large GPU dies as like 300 millimeters squared, like, half of a postage stamp or a third of a postage stamp. This die is insanely large. I don't know if they gave us the exact millimeter spec on it. No, they didn't. But just from the context of this picture alone, that's a big die. That to me says like 800 millimeters squared. Like, it's substantial. So yeah, Intel finally got something on 7 nanometer that they can potentially ship to consumers in the next year or two. This will be likely showing up in some high-end compute GPUs for enterprise, as well as possibly a glimpse of what they're going to bring to the consumer side of things on the high-end gamer side. Interesting stuff. I was hoping you would say something while I was taking a drink.
Well, what I was going to say was so stupid that I was like, I better just not say it. I was going to just make a joke about Ponte Vecchio. Like, I'm pretty sure like Vecchio is like old or something. So I'm like, what does it say about their, what does it say about their new product that they like codenamed it old?
Hashtag old news, right? Yeah, I don't think it says much. All right, moving right along here. Tesla will now accept Bitcoin in exchange for actual Teslas. So this is the thing. And in fact, there's a quite well-known YouTuber, Sarah Dietschy, decided to sell some Bitcoin and buy herself a Tesla. So she ordered herself, I believe, a Model Y. She got one of the high-performance Model Ys for like $50,000.
Wow.
In nothing but Bitcoin. And part of this was because obviously Elon has been pretty hardcore on pumping up cryptocurrency lately, most notably Bitcoin and Doge. But he announced this morning that you can now buy a Tesla with Bitcoin. They are accepting Bitcoin as a form of legitimate currency. I tried to say 3 different words there. That was great. They are now accepting Bitcoin as a legitimate form of currency, and you can walk away with the Tesla of your choice. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
crypto is one of those things that I've been trying to wrap my head around for a while, and I think like the first time I heard about it, it was kind of like a novelty, probably like for a lot of people.
Mhm.
But obviously, it's gaining a lot of momentum with new cryptos being minted and understanding of the blockchain, becoming more and more mainstream.
Right.
But like I just can't help but feel as though like crypto is like a pyramid scheme, you know? It's like value continually depends on like new people becoming interested and like becoming invested in it.
It's definitely unlike any currency we've ever seen, because
Yeah,
every currency we've ever seen has either value for the natural resource it's made out of, which is why gold and silver and gems were worth something, or is backed by the gross domestic product of the nation that wrote the currency. Which is why I have like more than that. I think I have like $2 million in Zimbabwe dollars. That I think I paid $4 on eBay for, just because I thought it'd be cool to have. But yeah, like I have a $200,000 bill from Zimbabwe. I think I might have a 500,000 as well. Like I've got, and then I have a bunch of hundreds. But it's usually only worth what the country backing it is also worth. In this case, what is backing Bitcoin?
Right. Well, that's like kind of the idea.
The belief that Bitcoin is worth something is what's backing it.
Right. And exactly. And that's what's kind of weird to me about the whole thing. And maybe I have it wrong. I'm not an economist. And I think this, maybe somebody in chat, has some disagreements with me about this pyramid scheme thing, but it's like, the thing that makes, Bitcoin valuable, A, is that, well, yeah, people think it's valuable, but B, supposedly there's a finite number of Bitcoins that you can mine. Eventually, like the time it would take to mine one Bitcoin is just longer than would be feasible to do. And so that's the number of Bitcoins you have. But if the number of investors in Bitcoin stays the same, the value of it doesn't really go up either. Like it does, because there's like a built-in scarcity.
Right. And it's only worth what the conversion to actual money says it's worth. And I don't mean actual money like in like actual money. I mean like traditional state-backed currency. You can't formulate it any other way. Like, it's not like 3 Bitcoin are worth 7 chickens. Like, that's how currency used to work, was I have something of worth. What do you have of your trade that you think is of equal worth? And we'll swap there.
Right.
And from there, we went to, state and country backed currencies. And we had, either gold or, as of like 1905, you could get gold certificates and silver certificates in the United States. That was $1 worth of silver, or 1/10 of a pound, sterling, and you could actually trade it in for metal if you wanted. Now the system doesn't work that way, because we've evolved beyond having a surplus of gold in Fort Knox to, well, we have, California, which is the 4th largest economy on the planet.
Right. Well, and that's what somebody says here. It's like, what's backing the U.S. dollar, and I think like what dictates the value of your currency from country to country or region to region is essentially like kind of this like assigned credit rating in a way. It's like based on the stability of your economy and the stability of your country, and obviously
it's the stability
the US
and
is very
it's
stable.
The stability and size of your economic load or economic bearing. And so the U.S., they say nothing's made in the U.S. anymore. Well, U.S. has a lot of industry still. U.S. has a lot of hands in just about everything. There's a lot of manufacturing in the U.S. There's a lot. Currency is backed on the gross domestic product of your country. And so the gross domestic product of the U.S. is still pretty darn strong.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And for whatever reason, lots of foreign countries invest in the U.S. economy and into the dollar, and that helps prop it up as well.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting concept. I don't know. The whole Bitcoin thing is well, crypto in general. It's so obviously it's coming to a lot of people's trending feeds because of like NFTs and things like that, which just seem absolutely insane to me. But
Would you
we'll
like
see.
to buy a tweet? I will sell you one.
Yeah. Well, and what's bizarre to me is so many people are like, well, this is like, you can see like Cameron Winklevoss today, like basically being like, it's going to revolutionize digital art. And it's like, how many people have I read already that have had their artwork stolen and minted as an NFT without their permission? And then somebody makes like, $2,000 or $3,000 on a digital screen grab of somebody else's art. And now that artist can't even mint their own artwork.
Right.
And not only that, but like, the transaction is like so like ridiculously gosh, I can't even think of the word. There's just such a high carbon footprint with like those transactions, which a lot of people say you can surmount, and maybe that's true, but at this moment it's like kind of double gross. It's like, here's this huge carbon footprint, and this artist who works really hard to make this digital piece of artwork is now getting screwed over by some asshole.
So Mike wants us to talk about NFTs. I know even less about NFTs than I do about Bitcoin, and that is still very little. So
I know hardly anything about them. I will say, obviously, it stands for non-fungible token, I think, and the people that support it believe that it's the solution to fixing the scalper problem with digital transactions and concerts and things, because I don't know, because the transactions are stored in the blockchain or something. So like one person buys a concert ticket or a couple of concert tickets rather than a bot buying them all out and scalping them out. Like that's something that's trackable, in the blockchain. Anyway, I don't know. People think it's going to revolutionize the digital economy, and I think that there's something to the idea, but right now it just seems very easily exploited. And then there's also the company, the websites and the services that are like allowing these NFTs to be minted seem to be like all of the transactions are broken in some way, allowing duplications of an item that's already been minted. But I don't know. Again, I don't know much about it. Just that lots of people say it's going to revolutionize ticket buying, maybe even like being able to buy graphics cards or something, because it's going to be able to like root out bots and all this sort of stuff. I don't know. And that, when you talk about it that way, it sounds like a great thing.
Two more super chats here. We got American Cosworth, $2. I'ma tell you anyway. Yeah, thank you for the RCR reference there. I really appreciate it. I'ma tell you anyway. I'ma tell you anyway. I'ma. I've seen that video. It's good. And the D, $5. Every time Rhett wears the Troublemaker shirt, it's a guaranteed super chat from me. Thank you, D.
Baby. I know. Apparently, though, the maker of the show, he's frowned upon anymore. So maybe it's not the best idea to wear it. But also the person who wore the shirt in the show in trouble as well, maybe. I don't know. But I like the shirt. I like the show.
Yep. We'll
sort it out later, I guess.
All right. Let's talk about why you can't buy a GPU right now. So
nobody's using NFTs, clearly.
Right. That's the entire problem. Mystery solved. Moving on. So I tried to weigh in this week in my Sapphire RX 6700 XT review. And I weighed in with my opinion, which my opinion mirrors very closely with Andy's opinion over at eTechnics, which the reason things are so expensive right now, it was a perfect storm of literally everything that can go against you as a consumer buyer on the GPU space. There's miners, there's short supply, there's exceedingly high demand from what they predicted. Because if you remember back at the beginning of 2020, people expected COVID to cause a very, very large recession. And while it did cause a recession, it's not a traditional recession in that some people lost their jobs, but some other people are making bank. And what we're seeing is the service industry and face-to-face, so your cashiers, your entertainment industry, your cruises, vacations, tourist towns, people that are reliant on other people coming into your business, those people lost business, a lot of it, and a lot of them shut down, and some of the even more of them for good. So there's definitely been an economic impact. There are other people, though. There are the Amazons and there are the makers of products that have been deemed a necessity for this. So webcam manufacturers, audio engineers, monitors, and computer hardware has been a commodity and has actually been a record-setting year for a lot of different places. Anyway, Asus came out earlier this morning or yesterday sometime and said they think that the Nvidia graphics supply shortfall is actually due to poor GPU yields, which we kind of thought that when the 30 series launched back in October. There weren't that many 3090s available. There weren't that many 3080s available. They already pushed back the release of the 3070 by about 3 weeks from when they originally announced it, just like 6 weeks ago. Like it wasn't a long time before they said, yeah, we're not going to be able to make those either. And every single graphics card in that stack has been virtually unobtainium since the announcement. I'm a reviewer with a fair number of contacts in the industry. I have yet to put my own hands or eyes on a 30 series card. I have not been in the same room with one of those cards. I don't know anyone on a personal basis who owns one of those cards. Like, there's a fair amount of separation between me and the latest Nvidia tech. I have been blessed enough. Sapphire has sent me 2 review cards now, the 6800 and the 6700 XT, both Nitro Plus editions, so the top tier editions. But those were loaner cards that I didn't get to keep. Those I get to keep for a week. In fact, the 6700 XT is already boxed up, awaiting a shipping label. So again, there's not much I can do with those. I can't compare them against each other even because I didn't have them at the same time. So it's been a rough go. It's been a rough go for graphics cards, for motherboards, for new CPUs, for power supplies, and all of them for kind of different reasons. So I'm going to kind of try to break down some of the reasons here and put to bed some of the conspiracy theories and just kind of say I'm sorry, but it's not my fault, but the worst is yet to come. It's kind of my impression of all this. So first off, Asus said they think the low GPU yields or the low GPU stock is due to low GPU yields, which means that Nvidia isn't good enough at their fab process via Samsung to produce enough graphics cards to satiate demand. I partially buy into that simply because in October, those cards were not available then either. And that was really before Bitcoin was still at like 25,000. Like, it hadn't skyrocketed yet. It was at the beginning of it, but it hadn't shot. And they were still unobtainable then. And that was back when I would still be able to buy AMD and Nvidia, 2000 and 5000 series cards off the shelf for less than retail price. You can get them shipped to your door for whatever Amazon was charging. They were in stock. They were readily available. And then the 30 series came out and you couldn't buy a single one. They were sold out literally immediately. That has to do, number one, with the demand of the cards was much higher than Nvidia anticipated. Again, Nvidia anticipated a recession, and so they scaled back their forecast for the number of cards they thought they needed to produce. What happened was the majority of people were still making money and had a lot of excess income or had a lot of excess money and went, you know what? This is the first graphics card I've seen in 4 years that's actually worth pouncing on. I think I'm going to buy one of the new cards. And they did. All of them. Forever. Now, there's conflicting news about this. Some of the news that I've been following says miners and pre-distribution buyers are getting the majority of the stock. There are other indications that Stock is just selling out as fast as Nvidia can make it, and AMD at the same token. It's just selling out that fast, and the majority of it's selling out to individuals, not bots, not scalpers, not. Now there are people certainly taking advantage, and they're getting preferential treatment from somewhere. I don't think it's Nvidia direct. I don't think it's board partners direct, but I think there's a distributor, probably middle road, who's probably making bank. But regardless of whether Nvidia has yield problems, which I think they have some yield problems, that doesn't explain why you can't buy the AMD cards either. Because I have heard nothing about yield problems on the AMD side of things. And the only thing that makes sense for that is that demand was exceedingly high. Same thing with AMD CPUs. AMD CPUs are renowned for their binning. Like, they're binning down CPUs that should be sold as higher SKUs so they can sell the parts to that particular family, not because it didn't meet the grade of the higher part. So a chiplet that may have wound up in a 5950X is actually winding up in a 5700X because they had too many. And those CPUs were unobtainable as well. And I think it was due to demand. This is the first chip in a long time that has been a significant leap forward. You know, it's no more of that Intel 3% a year crap for the last 5 years. It's no more of the Ryzen, oh, we almost got them thing. This was, we have a new chip. It's 15% faster than anything you've seen comparable before. And people went, I have to have it. And I think it's just demand. Now, with the demand of GPUs and CPUs comes the demand for new motherboards, memory, storage, power supplies, both for new builds and for mining rigs. And when demand is high and supply is low, that leads to inflation of prices. So I think it's a little bit of everything. And I talked in depth about, or not in depth, but I talked in generalities about the logistics process of Nvidia and AMD producing chips at Samsung and TSMC respectively, shipping those chips to board partners, having the parts assembled, validated, binned, etc. Them going into board partner cards and then shipping across the Pacific, which the shipping costs has increased exponentially from $1,200 per container to $20,000 per container. And they can only move so many containers at a time. They can only get so many empty containers back to stock to push the next group out. So that's been an issue. Then you have retailers or distributors who are selling out immediately to every single channel they have in the retail space. You have retailers who are selling out immediately to every single customer who possibly wants one because demand is high. So I think there's some truth into what Asus is saying, but Linus came out and said behind closed doors in rooms with people who aren't willing to talk to me, just said, and by the way, people have been getting a little bit more frank with me. Like, I talked to a partner that I work with quite a bit today, and they said, we have no motherboards and no GPUs for sampling. We have not been allocated any from corporate. And the reason being is they'd rather sell them. Rather than allocating 20 cards to go to reviewers, we'd rather sell them. And that was it. So again, that's behind closed doors, but that's the access that I have. The access that Linus have is probably well beyond the scope of what I have, but according to the board partners and OEMs that he talked to, the majority of parts are going to consumers. They're not going to miners. They're not going to scalpers. They're not going to this, they're that. There are scalpers that are certainly taking advantage of the situation, thus the name scalper. But the issue is simple economics. It's supply and demand. Supply is not meeting the demand, and the demand well exceeds what the supply can currently handle. Whether that was from projections that were wrong, or whether that was demand that was exceedingly high given the situation. And again, I think it's a little bit of both. I think between some people being out of work and needing tax breaks and kickbacks and stimulus checks to pay their rent the next month, there's also some people who have been working from home for 40 hours. They're not driving in their car 40 minutes per day anymore. And I'm in this group, certainly. I don't drive 30 miles one way to work anymore. In fact, before COVID, I moved 12 miles to my work. But even then, since it's been a year now since I've driven anywhere to work.
Yeah.
After March, I was literally in the office for, I think, 5 days. And that was it. So since March, I filled my truck 3 times. To tell you how many miles I put on it. And it only gets like 16 miles to the gallon if I'm doing city driving. Like it'll do 18.5, 19 if I really push it on the highway. But it gets 16 miles to the gallon in city. And I've done less than 3 tanks of gas in that truck.
I just filled my Jeep like 3 times.
Yeah,
I've a big tank.
Both my Nissan Frontier and my Z car have 20-gallon tanks. They have almost the exact same fuel capacity. I think the truck has an extra like 0.7 gallons or something like that. But roughly, if I go to fill them, it's about 18.5 to 19 gallons. I have bought gas fewer times than there have been months, and like I've done less than 1,000 miles on the Z car, and I've done less than 600 miles on my truck. And this is coming from someone who used to do 35,000 miles a year. Yeah. That's a lot of gas. That's a lot of insurance. That's a lot of wear and tear. That's a lot of tires. That's a lot of everything else. I'm not spending that money in that location anymore. I'm not commuting to work. Now I'm reliant on my computer. I need a good webcam. I need a good microphone. I need, maybe a new light to be able to be on camera and be presentable and everything else. And that's everyone else who went virtual workplace as well for the last 12 months. So some people had their expenses slashed by a good margin, and they've had 12 months of no driving. That's 10 grand in your pocket. If you were able to keep the same salary that you kept before, you've got a little extra scratch this year.
And then not only that, but when the stimulus comes your way, that's
just extra
disposable
money. Right.
Yeah.
And one of the stimuluses we used, the most recent stimulus, it was sweet. Let's put it in savings. Let's go on a trip next year when this crap is all over. We talked about spending it on various different things. We talked about quite a few different things. And in fact, today I was doing my taxes for Q1, and I gave my wife the raw numbers, and I said, here's our income and here's my expenses. And I went, my expenses are a little bit low. Like we're going to have to claim a little bit more taxable income. She goes, well, can you spend another $1,500 this week? And I went, yes. So I bought a 5600X at retail price. I was not willing to pay a penny more than retail for a 5600X, but I found one for $299 shipped. And I went, done. I paid scalper prices for a 5950X because I really wanted one. And I don't think the prices are coming down on those quite as quickly. Like the 5800, 5900 even, like you can get a 5900 for $799, but that's supposed to be a $500 part. And it's like, I don't want to pay that. So I paid $1,000 for 5950X, which is a 16-core, 4.9 gigahertz beast. The fastest chip that's ever been made. And I went, I want one. And so I bought one today. Because my expenses were too low.
Hey, it's part of the game.
Which, by the way, my expenses were too low. And I also made a $500 donation to the Red Cross because I got an excess of donations from people wanting to help out with the flood. Like we well uncovered all of our expenses for insurance. We're still waiting for the insurance check to come back. We got notice today that it should be cleared in the next couple of days, so we can actually start replacing stuff. But we went up to IKEA. We spent a couple $1,000s replacing furniture and getting things that we needed. But we got an excess of donations, and so I donated $500 to the Red Cross today, because I didn't need that much money to get back up on my feet. And the Red Cross, in the last year in Oregon, they have done so much good work. And and that's where I said I'd put the money. And so if you donated to that, thank you. Thank you so much for helping me pay the deductible and pay for some of the things that weren't covered by my insurance. But I got more than I needed, so I'm going to give it back. And again, that's a tax donation. We were still under on our expenses, so I had to spend more money on parts. Because either I spend it there or I give it to the government. It's like I'd rather buy tax-free PC parts than.
Yep.
That's the downside to my job. Is any PC part or alcohol that I buy or camera gear that I buy is now tax deductible.
It must be so hard.
It's a burden that I must bear.
Airfare and hotels at CES are tax deductible. I mean,
food at CES is tax deductible.
It's just a slog. I mean, really, like
I grind and I grind.
Not to mention, you get that sweet IRS mileage rate. I think this year it's 56 cents a mile if you got to drive.
Yeah, if you got to drive for work. Yeah.
I mean, that adds up.
And
baby.
I got to do it with the top down on the Z car with the new exhaust in it.
That's just.
It's brutal.
I don't know. That sounds tough. That sounds really tough.
Yeah. Anyway, I am almost done with my cocktail here. But anyway, if you haven't seen the Linus video, he does I guess it's over here. He does a fantastic breakdown from some sources that I don't have access to on some factors that have led to GPU price increases and in general component price increases. And I think he's right. I think Andy from eTechnics is right. I think Asus is probably right. I think every other person that I've talked to is probably right, because it's not one thing that has caused this. It's not, mining is booming, so everyone's buying cards. It's not, Nvidia sucks at making fabs via Samsung, and so we're not getting enough parts. Well, if that was the case, then AMD would be satiating demand, and they're not. It's not this, it's not that. It's a combination of literally everything that the last year has thrown at us, and we're paying for it now. That's where we're at. So, and unfortunately, as I said, it's not going to get better this year. I'm hoping sometime in like summer of 2022, maybe with the next halfway through next GPU release, we can maybe start to buy GPUs at retail price again. But this is going to be a long year if you are in the market for a GPU. CPUs are starting to come back down to earth. Like I said, I was able to find a 5600X shipped to my door from a retailer for $299. So they're starting to come back down to normalcy. And it wasn't used. It was an unopened box from an AMD authorized retailer. Like, I'll take it. The 5950X, I still paid a premium for that, but it wasn't the double the price that it was before. It was plus 20%. And so it's like, okay, I'm cool with that. But GPUs, I don't see it getting better anytime soon. There's also the fact that no one has really upgraded their GPUs for the last 4 years. I mean, the Tesla Turing cards were not enticing to upgrade from Pascal. Pascal was the last enticing upgrade we have from Maxwell, and Maxwell was the last enticing upgrade that we had from the 600 series in Kepler. Like, you either bought a 6 or a 107 series card, or you bought a Pascal card, or you had something in between. And from any of those series, the only upgrade path was if you had a 600 and you wanted a 900, you wanted a 1000 series. Like I said, there's variances in between, but if you look at like the major stepping stones, it was from Fermi, you went to 600 series, and that was night and day. Like, oh my God, that's the card to have. And from then it was incremental updates, and even Maxwell was kind of an incremental update. And then we went to Pascal, and we went, oh my God, Pascal is the card to have. 1080, are you kidding me? Then we went to Turing, and everyone went, eh. So, yeah. So yeah, it's demand. And demand makes fools of us all. All right. Speaking of fools, I don't know where I was going with that, but speaking of fools.
I'm right here, Jeff. I didn't go anywhere.
Sorry, you still look orange to me.
Hey, I think we missed a couple of super chats up before. You read the D's, but did we read American Cosworth?
I didn't catch that one yet. So American Cosworth, $5. So you're saying chiplet magical dies are just like rotary modules on a Winkle engine? No, because you have to replace the apex seals a lot less frequently on chiplets than you do on Winkles. I'm gonna tell you anyway. Guess how many cylinders this has? Triangle, 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 triangle. And then Novella Hub, $5 donation. Hopefully you can read Goodnight Shakopee every night. I still have to think about Shakopee, and I don't know why that word doesn't blend with my mind. It just doesn't. Shakopee. I'm assuming at this point.
And then one more from American Cosworth.
Oh,
hey,
more?
Jeff, what's your website? Need to forward craftcommuting.com to your website.
You know, I could probably get craft commuting if I wanted to. So I've told this story before that I actually we're coming up on the 4-year anniversary of craft computing. I registered the domain on March 27th of 2017. So March 26th, I was fairly well decided on what I wanted to go with for a brand name. I went, it's catchy, alliteration always works. It defines what the channel is going to be about. That is, I'm going to open a craft beer and I'm going to review tech. It reflects my personality. Like, I put a lot of thought into the name of the channel because I didn't want to go like Awesome Sauce, Bitwit, etc. Sorry, Kyle. I didn't want to have to rebrand on the fly. And so I looked up the domain and it said craftcomputing.com available for $12. And I went, cool. Add to cart. I'm going to sleep on it. I'm going to sleep on it just to make sure I like it. I went to bed. I woke up in the morning. I went, craft computing. I like it. Went to buy it. Someone had bought it and reposted it for $2,500.
Yeah.
I went, .net sounds good.
Yeah. So that, I feel like with domains, especially, you have like bots that just like scrub for cart data.
Yeah.
Like I have like a really bad habit of just buying domains all the time.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, that's a great one. Like if I don't get it now, it's gone. And then a year goes by and I'm like, I don't need that anymore.
Right.
But
let it lapse and yeah.
Yeah. But you know, yeah, interesting. I think though what American Cosworth is saying, I think he bought it because I'm looking at Google Domains.
Oh, did he buy it?
Well, I'm looking at Google Domains and craftcommuting.com is unavailable.
Ah. See, the other reason I don't think I would buy craft commuting is I don't want the connotation between drinking and automobiles. And so that's something I thought very seriously about as well if I ever wanted to spin off into like a car channel or something like that, because I'm deeply passionate about cars. Not that I work on them myself or not that I could talk at length like I do on YouTube about computers for, but I'm interested. And if the audience ever generates interest in, you know, my cars or anything else, do I want that to be part of the craft brand name? And the answer is no, because I don't want to mix that connotation of drinking and driving. It's hey Jeff, I bought craftcommuting.com just to forward it to you. Okay, so Cosworth bought it just to donate. Thank you, Cosworth. All right. I'm going to move on to the next cocktail now. And this one's going to have a little bit of a show. I have not attempted to make this before. This is the first time I'm using this particular piece of equipment to make a cocktail. I am going to make a smoked Manhattan. So, I have a rocks glass here. And in fact, do I want to do this neat or do I want to do this? I think I'm going to do this over a rock. So give me 5 seconds here.
I guess I'm giving him some seconds. Sorry, I'm like looking at domains now. He's got me like plugged in.
All right. There we go. Oh, that's right. I need ice for my mixing glass too. Sorry.
Should I make another cocktail? That last one was a double. I'm definitely feeling it. I'm not too keen on overdoing it tonight. I gotta wake up super early, but I did buy the ingredients for a Kentucky Mule.
All right, I am back. And I think I can reach everything that I need. Yes, I can. There's 1, 2. There's my bitters. Perfect. All right.
God, John Z, was I really biting my fingers? God, I feel like I was, but now I don't remember. Yeah, I just, you know, typical generalized anxiety tonight. It's all good.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Which one of us doesn't have that?
I know,
especially after a year in quarantine.
I know. Yeah.
I have to leave the house. Right.
Right, exactly. And I did that a bunch today. I even went to the DMV. Who does that?
Right. Ugh. All right. So I'm going to start off. I have a second camera angle tonight just for this. Sorry, Rhett, you're not on screen right now, but you got...
I'm going to let you do this while I grab something to drink myself.
Perfect. All right.
Okay.
So I'm going to be making a classic Manhattan, but I'm going to be smoking it in the process. And the way I'm going to do that is I have this actual smoke machine right off camera right here. We're going to fill this glass and dome with smoke if I can do it properly. For that, I have a full batch of hickory wood chips that we're going to add to my smoker and then turn on. Don't need a ton here, but there we go. I'm going to turn on this little pump right here. Light a match, and hopefully start drawing smoke into this little enclosure. There we go. Yes. There we go. All right. So we're going to let the glass just kind of chill right there for a minute. I'm going to grab my mixing glass here. We're going to do a classic Manhattan, which is 2 ounces of a rye whiskey. This is a minor case straight whiskey that was actually finished in sherry casks. So it should be a pretty good one. So we're going to do 2 ounces of that. There we go. We are going to do 1 ounce of a vermouth. I'm using a Martini and Rossi vermouth, which is a pretty good middle ground between a sweet and a dry. There we go. And then the exact recipe for a Manhattan is 2 whiskey, 1 rye, and then 2 dashes of bitters. I usually like to add 3 to 4 dashes of bitters. I like just a little bit more in my Manhattans. So there we go. We're going to mix that up. Okay. I'm going to go back to the other camera. I'm going to lift the lid and drop the ice real quick.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that sweet?
Wow, what I'm drinking is going to be underwhelming.
Yeah. And actually, I think I'm going to re-smoke real quick again. And I got to say, this is a pretty cool little contraption. And you should see the smoke pouring out of the bottom side. You can actually see it down here on the camera. Right there. It's just pouring out of there. There we go. All right. Lift that lid. And by the way, I'm using hickory wood chips for this. And then we're just going to pour right over the top.
Wow.
So how is that for a cool visual?
You know, I'm a little jealous because I wanted to make my cocktail on camera. Not that I'm not the same mixologist as Jeff is, but I thought it'd be more fun than making it in my kitchen 5 minutes before the show started.
What's fun? You all saw how long the liquid was in contact with the smoke. It wasn't that long. There is totally hickory in this drink. like it's scary.
Looks delicious.
That's my review. That's good. What are you bringing to the party, Rhett?
Well, look. Actually, nothing really. I was mentioning when you went to go grab ice, I think I said I wanted a second cocktail, but that last one I made was a double, and I'm feeling it. And I got to wake up early in the morning, so I don't know if I want to overdo it. And let's see, who was it in chat? Emma Shepard said, maybe not if you don't want to overdo it. So I went to the fridge and I grabbed an ice cold Soleil, baby. Safeway signature brand sparkling water, lime flavored. Let's go ahead and listen to this crack open.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, God. And it's going to taste like water that got farted on by a lemon, but oh no, this one tastes like water that dreamed of lemon once.
Passed by a lime truck or lemon truck on I-5.
Yeah. No, yeah, I was, I think I mentioned when you were off camera that I did buy all the ingredients to make a Kentucky mule. More ginger, but yeah, just, we're getting pretty late in the night. Figured I'll keep it clean. So many of our viewers tonight are drinking water themselves, so
yes,
I'll join you all.
Check. Okay, there we go. Sorry. My second camera was feeding audio in, and I didn't catch that when I set up that input. So
everybody else did.
Everyone else did, yeah. Double your pleasure, double your Jeff. Stop, Jeff. You're drunk. Go home. No.
We do got some more super chats. American Cosworth paid another $5 to say, Jeff, I bought Craft Commuting just to forward it to you.
Yes. No, I did read that one.
Fine.
We've got actually 3 more in here. So we've got Tiger. $5 donation. Thank you, Tiger. Have you looked into if there is any issue in Intel Xeon Phi, as they are pretty cheap on eBay these days? Don't. That's what I'll tell you. Don't. The Xeon Phi is a coprocessor chip that can... It doesn't have VTX support. It doesn't have VTD support. So you can't break up the coprocessing among different virtual machines. It doesn't have SRIOV. So you run those basically bare metal, and you run them for dedicated x86 multi-threaded tasks. They are like 1.1 gigahertz, essentially Atom chips, but that's really not the right... They're completely different than Atom, but think of them as super low power x86 chips. They are for dedicated workloads only, specific workloads that they are specifically designed to work on. For general compute, that is virtual machines, rendering, they don't work. There's a reason they're cheap. It's because you have to program for the Xeon Phi to get benefit out of the Xeon Phi. They are not brute force machines. They are purpose-built. Just don't. I've looked into them. I've thought about doing something with Xeon Phi because you can get like 58 cores on a PCI card for like $60, like $1 a core. I thought about it. I still decided against it. Abdul, $5. Echo. Not anymore. I fixed it. Andrew, $5 donation. Friend just refurbished my roommate's 290X, and I'm going to have my roommate bench it again against the 1650 I lent him. I might get my 1650 back. Trying to think. I think it's going to be relatively even against the 1650. Like if I'm doing the proper translations in my head. The 290X has 4 gigs of RAM. The 1650 has 4 gigs of RAM. I think the 290X might be one of the most comparable cards to the 1650 that's out there. The 290X later became the 390 and the 390X, which were Fiji-based cores, if I remember correctly. Then Polaris came out with the RX 580, and the RX 580 was almost punch for punch equal to the 390X. However, it was much more power efficient, and that's saying something because the 580 wasn't all that power efficient. So the 290X was the brute force equivalent of the probably the 570X or the RX 570. Which, as we know, the 1650 competed kind of blow for blow with the RX 570. So, spitballing, I think you're going to be on just about equal footing there. Yeah, so hopefully you'll get your 1650 back. If not, just say, it's close enough. Just take the 290X. American Cosworth, $2. Video requests, how to forward from GoDaddy. That's just DNS. It's easy. So, can't believe you bought with GoDaddy. I use Google domains.
Well, sometimes I use Google as well, but I've been finding that sometimes Google actually lists domains that are available as unavailable. So I just bought some domains from GoDaddy as well, specialty domains. So, for example, my podcast is Game Devs Quest, and we have gamedevsquest.com. I think we have gdq.com, maybe not. That'd be crazy.
Well, that'd be games done quick, and I doubt you have AGDQ or GDQ.
Maybe we do. Or
there's two people I know with that acronym, and I'm sorry, you're the smaller.
Well, yeah, I know, but it also just depends on what's available. Let me tell you what I have.
Okay,
I don't have that.
Okay.
You're 100% correct.
Yes.
But the acronym one I bought, it was for a game jam, which is OMG Jam.
Ooh, you need to sue because GDQ.com is Good Deal Quest.
Ooh. There's other people like I've seen that have been kind of like capitalizing on our Quest theme. Like I think I saw some other games thing called like Game Quest or something. I was like, well, that's close.
Yeah.
But I just bought gamedev.quest. Or gamedevs.quest rather, which wasn't available on Google domains. I had to buy it from GoDaddy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also bought retisaso.me.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
And I also bought, for the day that you're gonna cave and never buy craftcomputing.com, I bought craft.computer.
Nice. I thought about doing that one. That's funny.
Well, I got it, baby.
Yeah, nice.
It's all yours whenever you want.
Excellent.
Yeah,
I'm holding this hostage for the domain name. So.
you just have the domain name. I bought it for you like 2 years ago. I've been paying for it ever since.
That's funny.
And that's not a cheap one either. That's got to be like $20 a year, probably.
So by the way, funny story for everyone.
$30 a year.
Yeah, funny story about this computer for everyone that recognizes this one. So Rhett, for those who don't know, I recently brought on part-time on a contract basis to do a lot of my video editing, or at least the rough cuts, and save me some time. And he's been doing a great job. He's, what have you done, 5 now? 5, 6 videos, something like that? Been doing a pretty good job with them. But I built him a video editing rig because we are working on launching a second channel, which will be like 50% me and 50% Rhett, doing more gaming focused content. And so less on hardware, more on gaming specifically. So we will do like keyboard and mouse reviews over there. We'll do game reviews themselves. We'll do game optimization guides, things like that. So be on the lookout for that announcement here shortly. But anyway, I figured Rhett needs a computer at home to be able to edit his end of the videos for that channel. So I built that 16 core, 4 gigahertz, 2687W V2 system for him. And I was going to give him my 5700, my RX 5700 8 gig card. And had the system booted. I was benchmarking it and everything during that video, and it all worked great. But then I went, 1 terabyte probably isn't quite enough storage for him. Let me go ahead and give him some extra storage. So I pulled out a couple 1 terabyte SSDs that I had on hand, and added a SATA cable to it and plugged them in. Plugged the card back in and tried to fire it up this afternoon, and it wouldn't post. Or rather, it would post, but then when it tried to boot into Windows, it would hard lock, shut the computer down entirely, and then reboot. It's like, well, there's an activity I've never seen before. Interesting. Like, it would go to BIOS and you could surf around the BIOS and whatnot. Like, well, maybe the SATA controller is in a weird setting. Let me make sure it's an AHCI. Yeah, it's an AHCI. Cool. Let me switch it over to RAID. Let me see if I can RAID the cards together. Nope. As soon as it fired up into Windows and got like past the second circle in Windows, it would just click and shunt off. And then it would boot back up. And that was it. So I'm like, well, this is weird. Could it possibly be like one of my SSDs is dead and it's on like a 10-second delay boot or something like that? No, it would stay in the BIOS for 10 minutes at a time. And then as soon as Windows tried to load, it would die again. So I unplugged the SSDs. Same behavior. Well, that's weird. And so finally, I just reinstalled Windows. I went, I'm done fighting it. Maybe it's just a corrupt Windows install. We'll do that. I reinstalled Windows, got into the Windows desktop. I went, sweet. Installed the AMD drivers. And as soon as the AMD drivers installed, the computer crashed. So it completely shut down, rebooted, booted back up into Windows, but this time it came up with like just a bunch of yellow pixels on my screen. Well, that's new. And I went, did I kill this graphics card somehow? Did I do something wrong? Well, yes, I did something wrong. What I did was plug in 2 SATA cables that happened to be in the path of the graphics card, and the graphics card didn't fully seat into the slot. It was really flippin' close, but probably not enough where it was recognizing as an X16 card. And so when the driver wasn't installed, I could get video out on the card. As soon as I installed the driver and I needed all 16 lanes, there she goes. So, needless to say, that card with SATA drives installed is not compatible with that board. So Rhett got a bit of an upgrade, and he instead got my Titan XP.
Yeah.
Because it was the only other card that I had on hand that I went, I don't need to benchmark this in the future. Like, no one cares what the Titan XP did against the next Titan if I ever get my hands on it. What I do need to keep is my GTX 1080, my 1070, my 1060, my 5600 XT, my 5700 XT, my, RX 580, my, like, every single other card that I have, I need to keep for benchmarking purposes because I only have one. The only duplicate that I had was the 5700, and that one won't work in this computer.
Yeah. It's nice. I mean, I miss all of the beer and cocktails that I'd
Mhm.
get doing the show in person, but all of the money you've saved quenching my thirst is now going into PC hardware.
You didn't drink that much.
I don't know. I don't know.
Do you know what I could sell that card for right now?
Let's just say, yeah, fair enough.
Right.
I was gonna say, let's just say though, you know, the amount I was drinking before isn't necessarily representative of the amount I would drink during a pandemic. So it's like a wash in a way.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. So enjoy the 12 gigs of VRAM with your 16 cores, 32 threads of 4 gigahertz Ivy Bridge, 64 gigs of quad channel memory.
I am.
Yeah.
People have been talking about this Crisis game for a while. I'm thinking about seeing what that's about.
What's funny is I installed that for you.
I saw that.
Brett's probably never played Crisis properly.
Just the demo over and over and over.
Yeah. So no, I have Crisis proper, so you can actually go through it and experience what everyone else got but sometime between 2008 and 2013.
Perfect. Looking forward to it.
Rhett is the embodiment of the XKCD comic Living in the Past, where he buys games 5 years after they've been released. And so, like 2012, he's coming around going, guys, the cake is a lie. It's like, yeah, we know.
Actually, that was a hard one. I never actually for myself found out the cake is a lie because I actually kind of get motion sick with some games, and like I could probably go through like the first half of Portal, but then the puzzles start moving so quickly, and you've got to become so much more dexterous. And actually, like I could probably dial in the field of view and get that to work, but it actually makes me pretty motion sick.
A wider field of view would actually help you because the things in perspective to the camera are further away, and so they're moving slower. I found that in some VR games, increasing your field of view ever so slightly will kill any motion sickness that is inherent with that particular game.
I typically have to set it to like at least 120. And so I never tried that with Portal because I didn't know that would fix it back then. Yeah. And then I just haven't played it.
I will say I also installed my Good Old Games copies of Cyberpunk 2077 and Horizon Zero Dawn.
I'm looking forward to both those.
So, yeah. Anyway, we got 2 more really quick items to hit, and then we're going to call it a night here. So first off, Nvidia is looking at introducing, or rumored to be introducing, an Ampere A100 GPU, built specifically for cryptocurrency mining and will cost $3,000 retail. I'm pissed off about this for 2 reasons. Number 1, that's fabs that should be going to graphics cards that are now going to purpose-built, not even ASIC miners, but purpose-built miners using Nvidia silicon that I would much rather land in a card that I could use after the crypto boom is over. Because once the crypto boom is over, I can't use this card for NVENC encoding. I can't use it for SRIOV. I can't use it for MX GPU. I can't use it for any other technology that really excites me. It's literally just sand. And that pisses me off. That and it's $3,000. So a couple weeks ago, I thought I had a line on a Titan V, and I was so ready to pull the trigger on a Titan V. And then that deal fell through, and I still kind of want a Titan V, but I already spent $1,400 today, and adding another $2,200 I think would go beyond like paying all your expenses for the quarter and into the realm of pissing my wife off. So I bought the 5950X and an additional 64 gig kit of memory to the. So I have a set of Viper, Patriot Viper Blackout Edition memory that is 2 32 gig sticks at 3600 megahertz Cas 18. I bought another 2 32 gig sticks today, so I can put 128 gigs on my 5950X. And I'm going to see how it holds up against Threadripper because I think it's going to kick its ass. I also have a 2 terabyte Gen 3 NVMe drive that's going to go into that system, and possibly some other storage, and possibly I was looking for like what graphics card do I need to put that over the top? Because right now I have a Titan XP. Oh crap, I need to give that to Rhett. I guess I'll throw my 2080 back into it. I know that's a terrible problem to have. But I need a 3090, or I need like a Titan V or a Titan RTX or something to put this rig over the top. Like, it has to have something. I can't have the top of like 3 different variants of parts and then drop a 2060 into it. Like, that's not cool. That's not who I am. F80 as the editing scratch disk. Actually, I thought about buying an additional F80 to go into the rig, just as a scratch disk. But I'm going to have plenty of storage anyway that's already NVMe capable. So, trust me, good things are coming as far as storage with this the system goes. How many Chrome tabs can you have open? 20 on top of Premiere editing my 4K RAW video. So, sorry, it's disingenuous. It's 4K ProRes, but still. Which, as we found out, 4K ProRes edits pretty darn well on a Quadro P620, which is what Rhett's been editing on lately. Remotely, I might add.
Yeah.
Which that will be a video here very soon on how the performance is on that. So stay tuned. And then one last thing to get to. Valve's Robin Walker says fans should be excited about the possibility again of Valve first-party games. And I, for one, am thrilled with how Half-Life Alyx turned out. I missed that level of polish in games. Like, Half-Life Alyx released, and it, by itself, immediately set the bar for VR games at least a rung and a half higher. Like, there's been some really good experiences in VR, but there has not been a AAA beginning to end made for VR game until Half-Life Alyx. That should be the bar every single VR game is pushing for now. Instead, we're still getting crappy mechanics in a dumbed down game of what we're normally used to. There's no Red Dead Redemption 2 for VR yet. There's no Apex Legends for VR yet. There's not even a Fortnite for VR yet. We have kind of these mild implementations of games. We have Pavlov, we have Onward, we have Gorn, we have... You can argue Fallout 4, but Fallout 4 wasn't meant for VR and still has a lot of really jarring experiences in it. There's Skyrim for VR, and let me just tell you, that was $60 I want back. Because what a bloody nightmare of an experience that thing is. The combat doesn't work. The holding of items doesn't work. The locomotion works pretty well. If you just want to walk through Skyrim, it's fine. But everything else sucks because it wasn't meant for VR, and they didn't put enough time and effort and energy and resources into making it for VR or rewriting it for VR, which is what it really needed, for it to be worth a $60 price point. Fallout 4 was way better. Still broken, but better. But Half-Life Alyx had the polish of a AAA game that happened to be in VR.
You know, that's one of the kind of interesting things about Valve, and I know that everybody is constantly, at this point, jokingly harping about Half-Life 3 and stuff like that. And I think people need to brace themselves for the very real possibility that it may never happen, because the people that made Half-Life great...
I just said it's not.
Right. The people that have made Half-Life great, especially Half-Life 1 and 2, they're just not with the company anymore. And that doesn't mean that it's not a possibility. But it's interesting because I've been just doing a lot of like games history research, and like one of the things that really made Valve stand out is the way that they developed games was by essentially they'd iterate different games, different modes, different things like that by modding their own game as developers, and then they would play them. They'd have like studio-wide like LANs where they'd screw around, and that's how you got something like Counter-Strike. That's how you got all of these different modes in Half-Life that are really popular. But I think what's most interesting is that's how the gravity gun came to be implemented into Half-Life, which became one of the most interesting
and iconic.
and iconic weapons in any game.
Right.
And what sets Valve apart is they're screwing around in their dev tools, fighting each other in some arena or whatever. And they're like, man, wouldn't this like the gravity gun was just a dev tool for them to manipulate the game inside,
Right.
Behind the scene and get the game to work the way that they wanted.
Instead, they gave it actual mechanics and integrated into the game. And people went, now that's freaking awesome.
Right. And it became something so they said, man, this is so fun. Like, we can't keep this from the player. We should figure out how to include this in the game. And they did. And it was like genre defining.
Yeah.
And other studios at the same time had similar tools in their game, but they were like, well, we can't give the player that much power. It would break the game.
Right.
Well, just figure out
how to
what? Make your game different.
It broke Half-Life 2 also, but we loved it for it.
Right. Exactly. You're playing a game. It's not a simulation.
Once I've beaten the game, I love going back through and modding to my heart's content.
Yeah.
Like I played through the entire campaign of Red Dead Redemption 2 twice. Once on the Xbox One, original Xbox One, which by the way, I played at like 584p at 20 FPS. Like, it's that good of a game that I suffered through that because it was that good of a game. And then again, when it came out on the PC, and I played through the same way both times. I'm Evil Arthur all the way. Like, I am like, shoot you in the face for looking at me funny or saying like, what's your problem?
Good Arthur.
No,
I need those flowers on my grave.
No, I'm Evil Arthur, the full bore. I am get shot in the face by Micah at the end, Arthur, because I made all the wrong decisions. Like, I have the achievement for make your honor gauge go one way or the other, and it's all the way to the left.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. But it was that good of a game. I played through it twice completely through. But now that I'm twice completely through it, I love getting all the guns early on and just blasting my way through it and just having a ball with it. Yeah. I love playing through Half-Life and then giving myself infinite ammo and all the guns from the beginning and the gravity gun and just like throwing people to the side or, launching barrels into people. And it's great fun. I love cheating. I love cheating.
That's the secret behind a lot of cheat codes anyways, is that they were tools that devs used and QA testers used to polish their products.
Right.
But the point of that being is that, like, while Valve was sort of, I think, defining a genre in a way and features in a way and really setting the standard and the bar for what it was, I think, like, that's part of what kind of forced them to hold back on Half-Life 3. But what's it, like, Half-Life Alyx, like, it's funny in retrospect thinking about the gravity gun in that way and thinking about gaming in that way, is that, like, of course they would have kind of developed the epitome VR game experience. I mean, that is what Valve does. They find these new tools and these new gimmicks in a way. I mean, VR, I'll say it's really just a toy for the most part.
Right.
But you get something like Half-Life Alyx, which makes the most of it.
Which takes advantage of all of its advantages and does away with traditional gameplay mechanics, which don't translate into VR.
Yeah.
Exactly. Someone said Superhot is a great game. Superhot is a great game, but it's also a one-trick pony. It does one thing and it does it very, very well.
Yeah.
Gorn,
it's a toy.
Gorn does one thing and it does it very, very well. Beat Saber does only one thing and does it better than anyone else has ever done it. Space Pirate Trainer is one game that's very good. Half-Life Alyx blends 3 or 4 or 5 different types of game mechanics. It's a puzzle-solving game. It's a first-person shooter. It's a horror. It's an adventure. It's an exploration, all at the same time, blending seamlessly between those gameplay modes. And it tells a compelling story. And it has amazing visuals. And it has some of the most dynamic game mechanics you've ever seen for the platform. That's what makes a AAA game.
Yeah.
And while Fallout 4 tells a decent story, it does the exploration right. It does most of the mechanics right as far as VR. There's a couple of things it could have done better, but at least it did melee combat right, which Skyrim didn't. Like, a game that's dependent on swords and spears and maces failed in the melee combat mechanics. Like, think about that.
Yeah.
The main mechanic in Skyrim failed at being the main mechanic in Skyrim.
Well, the hard thing is that in Skyrim there are no spears. And they try to explain it canonically, but it's a stupid explanation, and the game suffers because of it, because Skyrim is a step down from the superior game, Morrowind. I think this is a good... Chris McComb here had a good little snip saying that VR is evolutionary, not revolutionary. And I think that's a really good description of what VR is going to be. And I don't think that it means that people can't revolutionize what it is or whatever, but I think that VR is kind of just going to be the step towards...
I think there are so many game publishers and developers who are trying to take the safe route with VR rather than taking chances with VR. Yeah. They are still trying to treat it as a mainstream, everyone has to be on board type of medium. When you get the people who have bought into VR to this point, and I'm kind of excluding the Oculus Quest users from this because the Oculus Quest is now a consumer, almost an impulse buyer territory. Yeah. But the people who have bought into VR previously are Oculus Rift, HTC, and Valve Index people who have invested $700 to $1,000 in their experience. And they're taking risks with their money. They're going, I think I'm going to play this enough where my investment in the product makes sense. However, VR devs aren't doing them the same justice by playing it safe and saying, we're going to do Hitman VR, but we're going to shoehorn it into Hitman 3, which is also an Epic Games exclusive, and we're not going to devote too much dev time to the VR side because we know 80% of our player base is going to be on 2D.
Well, it's kind of like how most studios right now, not most, but a lot of studios too, they're making mostly like multiplayer games because they're cheaper, easier, and faster to implement and maintain.
I don't have to tell a story. I just have to have players shoot at each other and give colorful environments. Hell yeah, I can get a 10-year-old to play this.
Right. Like, look at like Fortnite. Like, they were trying to create one experience, and then they found out that the Battle Royale like got people interested in playing.
Did you know Fortnite has a single player and like 10 other different modes for multiplayer? But no, Battle Royale is what makes Fortnite.
Right. And it's just easy. Like, you don't really have to implement like a new map every time. You're not like procedurally generated. Like, it's kind of the same. You change drops, and the only thing that really changes it is player strategy.
Right.
Yeah. But we got a couple super chats, and then I think we're kind of wrapping this thing up.
Yes, we are. So we actually got quite a few. Starting with Alice, who wants to know $5. Do you have any interest in retro computing projects such as Commander X18, Mega 65, or Color Maximite? Not quite that old. Although I do have a project I've been sitting on for about 6 months in which I'm going to rebuild a Pentium 1. And that will definitely be a build coming up. I'm just trying to set aside the appropriate amount of time to put to that build to give it justice. And it is a quite compact Pentium 1 system. But I have a video card, I have an audio card, I have a Pentium 1 system that will take everything from a Pentium 90 to the 233 MMX that I have on hand. It's going to be a good build, which, by the way, Pentium 1 233 MMX should send shivers up just about everyone's spine because that was the fastest Pentium 1 MMX ever made. Rhett wouldn't know because he was born after that.
Shut up.
But yes, no, I have a lot of interest in retro computing. The problem is I don't know how they would integrate into craft computing in general, and so they might be seen on craft gaming. I don't know. But Rhett and I are both feverishly working at that. By the way, I'm going to ask you this in the air. How's your first review coming?
Things are slow. And actually, it's funny because, like, talking about all this...
We don't even have to say the game because everyone knows the game already. But how's your first review coming, Rhett?
It's coming along really well. I've been what's really sad is that I really hit the niche like early on before it was popular with a podcast like several years ago, and now I'm looking online and it's like, oh, like this specific topic is like there's already for like the specific title of the video that we put in our brainstorm sheet.
Yep.
There's like 100 videos with that title already. I'm like, son of a gun.
Yep. That's the problem with Bethesda titles is there are people like you who have already written it to extinction. And what do you do that's new?
Right,
But what I would say to that, and we're live brainstorming on the air here, what I would say to that is treat this more as an introduction to Rhett as a personality, less of an introduction to what Morrowind is. People know Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind for what it is, and it is a diehard community of fans and modders and people who think like, oh, this is where RPGs for PC peaked. I know.
Wow,
but
that's so weird. Did you have like something tapped into my brain there?
Yes. But treat this more as an introduction to who is Rhett as a reviewer and what can we expect of you for other game reviews. Let your personality shine more than the game. That's what I want to say.
That's a good suggestion.
Yeah. So Rhett and I came to a brainstorm table and we had like an hour of brainstorming where we said, okay, what is craft gaming going to form into? What's its voice? What's its genre? What's its niche? What's its message? And Rhett says, I've been thinking of like what's an easy topic that I can tackle? And I was thinking Morrowind. And I said, actually, that was my exact suggestion to you is I want you to tackle Morrowind from a retrospective. I want you to go, why was it popular then? How did it change gaming? How is the community now? And why did it evolve the way it did? And I want you to tackle it on a pretty hardy basis. Like get deep into it. And
I am.
Right.
I just watched an 8-hour video essay on Morrowind. I'm not even kidding. 8 hours.
Mm-hmm. Right. Oh, and by the way, Rhett's going to be on camera for this. So it'll also be one of his first like monologues that he has to slog through. So I bought him a teleprompter.
Yeah. I'm actually really looking forward to that.
So am I, actually.
I think that's really cool.
I think it's going to be fun. But that'll be the first video on craft gaming. So stay tuned. Or as Rhett would say, buckle up.
Damn, now I have to say it all the time.
Right. Andrew, $5 donation. Thank you. I'm gonna get through this as quickly as possible, and I'm also gonna give them the time that they actually deserve. So we'll be on for a couple more minutes here. Andrew wants to know, by the way, we just got one more super chat too, so buckle up. Any interest in Coral AI? Would love to see if there's any reasonable hobbyist use for it. I'm actually not all that familiar with Coral AI. So AI in general does intrigue me from a machine learning kind of standpoint. In fact, my brother-in-law has a master's degree in machine learning, and he's been doing some really cool things with it. But I myself don't understand the implications fully, nor do I understand the use case for it in every regard. But AI in general does interest me from a fringe standpoint. I will say that at the very least. And as much as I would like to go on that, I can't because most of my knowledge is tangential. It's on the fringes of like, oh yeah, I've heard of that. I know some of these words. Like, that's my knowledge of AI. So I'm not going to. American Cosworth, $2. I stand with Rhett.
About motion sickness, I think.
Okay. That makes
sense.
sense.
That's what people are talking about. Then Steve says, I'm just a patient gamer playing old games.
Dr. Watson, 32, $10 donation. Thank you. Says, I'm with Rhett, 4 terabytes of games, and once in a blue moon, I play once in a blue moon and mostly older stuff. I'm finding more and more of myself doing that and being like years behind the trend. Like I'm still trying to play through Hitman 2, not the 2005 release, but the 2017 release of Hitman 2. And it's like, oh, Hitman 3 is already a thing and it has VR support. Oh.
Yeah.
Right?
So yeah, I've found the best thing for me to do is to just keep like 3 to 5 games installed, and that's it. And
Yeah.
I actually find that when I do play, it feels much more like deep and engaging. I'm not like
Yeah.
worried about, oh, I could be playing something else. Well, I can't because I don't have anything installed.
It's kind of the mentality I've been trying to take lately, where it used to be I had the same 20 games installed, and it's like, well, what do I want to play? I guess I'll play through Mass Effect 2 again. But now Mass Effect has the HD release coming in a couple months, so I don't want to play it right now. So it's like, okay, well, what do I play? You know what? Horizon Zero Dawn, Sony made the investment in porting it to the PC, and from all I've heard, it's a pretty damn good port. I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to play it. Because I think it deserves that. And so far, I've been really impressed with it. And so I'm trying to put the time into Horizon Zero Dawn lately to play through it. But I've also got the Oculus Quest that I bought recently. And so I've been replaying through a lot of the VR games that I played like 3 years ago when I had the VR arcade. So I'm going back through Super Hot. I'm going back through Gorn now that it's fully evolved into a fully fleshed out, not early release title. I'm going to play back through Arizona Sunshine, but with all of the DLC enabled. I want to play through Half-Life Alyx fully wireless. Yeah. Like there are so many games that I'm trying to go through right now. And I'm to that point where it's like, I've got like 4 or 5 VR games alone that I want to re-explore, let alone the new VR games that I haven't played yet. Plus, I've got to give my daughter VR time in Vacation Simulator, which she has been rocking the crap out of lately. And it's like, I still don't have time to play through other games that I really want to get to. But I am taking that advice, and I have installed only like 4 games on my current gaming PC, and those are my choices. And so those are what I'm trying to go through right now. American Cosworth, $2. My wife says, welcome to the 128 gig club, E5-2696 V2. Well, I've been on the 128 gig club for a while. In fact, my Epic server is a 256, although I don't use it for daily compute. I've used it for some VR stuff, and I also used it for the last cloud gaming server, although I'm not going to use the Epic for the next iteration of the cloud gaming server, so stay tuned. This project has cost me way too much. Stay tuned, please. Please keep watching. I need you to watch because it's cost me way too much.
You need the ad revenue.
I need the ad revenue. But yeah, no, I've also got the 5950X that's going to 128 gigs. I've also got my Epic, which is technically currently, or not my Epic, but my Threadripper 2 or Zen Plus 2950X, which is currently a 64 gigs, but I did specifically buy the 128 gig kit for it. I just haven't installed it because the cooler is too short to clear the memory. So I hit, right. Yeah. But no, I've had many machines with 128 gigs before. Andrew, $5 donation. The 290X blower style sounds like a hairdryer. Yes, it does. Apparently you've never ran a Nano. In a 10-foot by 16-foot room from an IT standpoint, I don't know if I can knowingly subject him to that. All's fair amongst friends is what I would say. And I would say as a loaner card, you're giving him the benefit of gaming on the peak of 2016 technology. And he should be damn grateful for the opportunity to game on a 290X, which, by the way, was the flagship card for AMD for quite a while, outside of the 295X2. So you can say this was a $550 graphics card when it was new. You should be appreciative of the opportunity to have such a glorious beast in the same room as you, let alone be able to touch it. And then take your 1650X, or take your 1650 back and laugh all the way to Newegg. And then finally we have PC Tech Hustle, $10 donation. Just saying hi, Jeff. Love the stream. Keep crushing it. Thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate that. There are some who say they appreciate that. I really mean it. Like, that $10, that's going to go right back into the show. It's going to go into liquor. It's going to go into equipment. It's going to go into camera gear. It's going to go into something. Yeah. It's probably going to pay my editor, which is going to speed me up, which is going to bring you more content. So, yes, I sincerely appreciate the donation. Novella Hub says, glory to you and your house. And then Big Spoon, $2 donation. I stepped away. Did we talk Discord and Microsoft? We didn't talk Discord and Microsoft. I think I want to wait and see what that materializes into this next week. It was on my notes. It didn't make it to the final notes because Microsoft has been rumored to be talking to Discord to acquire them for $10 billion. That's billion with a B. And this is all materialized within the last 48 hours. And there's a lot of he said, they said, he said, she said, that I don't know that I can dissect. A lot of people are going, oh, F Microsoft, they're just buying up another thing to dissolve them because they want everyone to go to Teams. At the same time, in the gaming realm, Microsoft can really do no wrong over the last 4 years. Like, they have been doing all the right things by gamers for gamers to make it a more open ecosystem rather than trying to exclude things. Like, they were the one who extended the olive branch to PlayStation and said, hey, you know what? Why don't we all play in the same Rocket League bin? And PlayStation went, screw you, I want my own sandbox. So wait, people are leaving? Yeah, we should do that. And is not Game Pass one of the best deals in gaming that you have ever seen?
Oh, yeah.
Like, just flat out. Not speaking of the game, just speaking flat out. Microsoft Game Pass is a freaking breath of fresh air into an ecosystem that has historically been exclusionary.
Yep.
So for all of the sky is falling, for all of the, gosh, who was that? Chicken Little. For all the Chicken Littles out there, I say, let's just wait and see where the cards land. Because I don't think Microsoft is buying this just to drive a nail in the coffin of it. Right. Just to erase it. I think they are buying this to say, hey, Discord is now integrated into Xbox Chat.
Yeah, which is
now if you have a Nitro subscription, you also have a Game Pass subscription. Now if you have this, you also have that. Hey, do you want to talk on Microsoft Live? Now you can integrate your same rooms into Discord. I think they're looking at more of an integration and existing community route rather than we saw this as a competitor and we want to flush them out route. So that's my 2 cents. That's where I think they sit. But this has been episode 176 of Talking Heads every Wednesday night on YouTube, Craft Computing. I had words and they all kind of, they've been like meshing together all night. I've managed to stay fairly fluid, but I have multiple thoughts in my head at the same time and multiple words I want to land on, and the sentences go, no.
Oh, yeah.
This has been Talking Heads here on Craft Computing every Wednesday night, I did it again. Rhett, you want to sign us off, please?
Guys, this has been episode 176 of Talking Heads, live from Craft Computing every Wednesday night, right here. That's been Jeff. You can
right
find
here
him
on YouTube at 8 p.m. Pacific time.
Well, you know,
they know.
That's a given. Y'all found it. But
you know what this is.
In case you didn't know, 8 p.m. Pacific time. You can find Jeff over at Twitter at Craft Computing. Follow all of his shenanigans there. You can find me on Twitter at RhettIsAwesome. And if you haven't done so already, go down, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to join the Discord where we have the super secret awesome after party, you can do so for $1 a month, or Floatplane if you'd like. That gets you into our Discord server. Patreon or Floatplane subscription gets you in there. Yeah, give this bad boy a like. Come back next Wednesday. One of the other Talking Heads hosts, y'all. We'll catch you next time.
It's going to be John on a final sign out for Mixology March, because it will be a stream on March 31st, the 5th Wednesday in March. It should be a great time, and I think John and I are both going to kind of drive this thing out with a bang. I tried the smoked cocktail this week. Who knows? Maybe we'll be doing like absinthe next week. I don't know.
Perfect.
Thank you, Rhett. Guys. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you all so much for watching. And as always, we will see you next